We're back after a short.
Very short setup.
What's the break they call when they make sponsorship? What's that called? Even though we don't get
Intermission.
Advertise
After an intermission.
Advertised intermission.
Again, guys, you could sponsor us one. No, we're not taking any money from anybody.
We have our endowment is what, $500 million now?
Basically,
we don't need any.
give or take.
Man, we could just sell our stocks and leave it.
Do me a favor. I need you to turn Hayk's microphone just up a little bit. No, you could leave that there. Hayk's microphone. There we go. Okay. Thanks, guys, everybody. Again, thank you to Andy for tuning in with us as far as audio. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We wish you guys could have seen him as well. We saw him we couldn't hear him, and then we could hear him, we couldn't see him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was Andy, guys. But
I think you all recognized his voice. So
yeah. Hopefully, we'll have him on in the future as far as live. But our second guest today, Dr. Hayk Martirosyan, political science. I would say, what would it be? Political science activist, or would it be? What would be the proper title for you,
Well,
Dr. Hayk?
I'm a political scientist,
There you go, political scientist.
analyst, and maybe politician as well.
Yeah.
That's future-wise towards
Well,
politics.
current-wise as well, past-wise as well,
Yeah, and
future-wise as well, I guess.
And one of the things, prior to starting the podcast, which we kind of touched base on very lightly before we can go live, and it's something that all of us would want to talk about, is you were actually part of the revolution, the Velvet Revolution,
Yeah.
that took place with
Yeah.
current Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan,
Yes.
which is something we'll touch base on. But as far as just a background check on you, finding out a little bit more about you and where you graduated and all that stuff, can you give us some insight on that? And then we'll jump into the whole revolution, because that's something where you being front line and we're in Los Angeles, we want to know what was going on and how everything was happening.
Well, I guess everybody knows by now. Was a huge movement of people. Everybody was fed up with Sir Sarkisyan going for the third term. So people were enraged. There was this need for the longest time to replace the government, to replace people from power. That's what happened in very brief, if we would put it. Yeah.
But as far as with you, political scientist,
Yeah.
and it's a doctrine.
Well, yeah,
PhD.
but you should know that I'm not very much in the academic field at this point. I am very much in the active politics at this point, doing analysis, and also trying to come up with ways and ideas that might be helpful for Armenia. So revolution was a point where I saw and I thought that I cannot just analyze, I gotta be in it. That's how I ended up in the movement on the front lines.
So prior to the revolution, you were also you had already graduated. You were already
Yeah, sure,
a
of
political
course.
analyst, basically,
Yeah.
before joining the movement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And now this war, again, same thing goes with this one. It's tougher than during the revolution, because during the revolution you could speak basically what you wanted. Now there are some limitations on the speech imposed by the government, so there are these conditions that you cannot speak your mind freely, otherwise you're running a risk of penalties, financial penalties, and who knows, maybe criminal ones as well.
You're referring to speaking out in Armenia, or where? Or
yeah,
Even here,
in
as
Armenia.
far as when during war, you just
No, here, I don't think that it applies to here, even though the legal basis is weak somehow. But it's also about the public understanding or being ready to hear some analysis that might not be in favor of the direction that's coming from higher ups. So in that sense, even here, even in diaspora, people are not really very much free to speak up their minds. And I'm not talking about things that are critical of the government at this point, because many people think that one shouldn't criticize the government during the war. But we also know that in the war, in any war, in every single democratic country, there is huge debate going on, because my deep belief is that the society should control how the government runs the war for the society and for the people. You cannot just trust the government to do everything and without being questioned, without being scrutinized. And if you let that happen, then you run huge risks, because there is no debate, there is no discussion, there is no plurality of thoughts and ideas. So that's also something that that I guess in the future needs to change.
Does this new administration allow for opposition parties to work together with the administration, or are they in full control of
regarding the war?
Every aspect of politics in Armenia the last 2 years?
Well, we have now, like previously, no, the government, I mean, I don't want to discuss these internal things at this point, but the reality, the fact is that the government and the people in power have acted almost solely without participation of opposition. Now, even more, opposition is pushed aside because of the war going on, and it's a very complex and difficult thing that I would like not to discuss at this point.
Yes.
We will have plenty of time to go into this in the future when the war is over.
Safe to say the one thing is safe to talk about today would be international involvement?
Everything is safe to talk, basically. It's not about being scared, or it's about public.
It's not about
It's about
hurting
public.
ourselves.
It's about public sensitivities and sensitive issues that might not be taken easily by some citizens, people in diaspora. So we need to prepare the public to be able to have open discussions when the war is over. What comes to the international involvement, this thing, we Armenians just don't realize how big this thing is in terms of international affairs and international arena and sphere, because this has all the potential to grow into a not only a regional but international proxy conflict, just like we've seen recently in the region. It's not only about Armenia. Of course, Azerbaijan and Turkey want to destroy Armenia without any doubt. And mind it, this is not about Artsakh. We mistakenly, full Armenia, we mistakenly think that the issue is that they want to take Artsakh. That's nonsense.
That's just a bordering little province that they just want to wipe out right now in order to have.
It's not bordering, it's part of Armenia, basically. Armenian province that they want to wipe out first before they move into, let's say, Yerevan itself. And this is not a maximalistic, extreme view.
Well, Erdogan's on record saying it. I mean, if we don't see it today, it's going to be too late.
And Aliyev has said that many, many times. He has said, Yerevani Khanutsun, Erivan, Erivan Khanate, Erivanskaya Khanstva in Russian. He claims Yerevan was that, so he takes only one small Persian domination period, refers to that as Azerbaijani, and claims Yerevan is. And this is not a joke. By the way, we have to mind one other very important thing as well, that we, the Armenians, portray Aliyev and Azerbaijanis as sheep in our cartoons and etc. This is not very smart and wise, because we ridiculize them. We do all these cartoon, we create all these cartoon images.
Mockery, basically.
Mockery in our own minds as well. At the same time, we dismiss the seriousness of these people's determination and the seriousness of the situation. And also, we should mind one other thing, that Aliyev, being the evil he is, being the genocider he is terribly honest in whatever he speaks. He speaks his mind. He doesn't play diplomacy. So we should appreciate this fact and take it very, very seriously. In Armenian public, many have dismissed for years whatever he has said, saying, oh, that's for internal public, for internal use, that's for internal audience, that's nonsense, that's propaganda, that's to keep his power, and etc. Nonsense. No such thing. Whatever he has said, he has done.
And he means it.
And he really means it. And the most amazing thing is that he speaks his mind openly. He doesn't hide anything. He doesn't fake anything. He says what he's going to do, and he does it, actually. So we got to be more serious, taking our enemies' words and points of view very, very seriously from now on. And when I was stating that this has all the potential to grow into a wider scale international conflict, again, to return to the beginning, it's aimed at the whole Armenia, to eliminate the whole Armenia, and to unite with Azerbaijan, basically, and go further towards the Turkic world, up to China. But it's also aimed at Iran. Because, and my friend Ambassador Arap Apyan came up with this idea, and I completely agree with him, so I got to give him credit. It is also that Azerbaijan, obviously because of the fights these days, 2 days ago, yesterday, today, they fight on the banks of Arax River, River Arax, which is a border between
Iran and
Armenia and Iran in terms of Artsakh and also, the Republic of Armenia part. And Iran. So they want to cut that because they want to take control over the border with the Iranian territories where ethnic Azerbaijanis live, Turkic people. Also, this is aimed at Turkey, at China, on part of Turkey, because China is building its Silk Way.
Silk Road?
Silk Road, which is the Silk Way, actually, and it is going to pass through this region. So getting control of this border, cutting Armenia from Iran completely, and it's not going to stop with Artsakh part of the border. They're going to be crossing. That's what they plan. I'm sure that plan is going to fail, but their plan most probably is to cross it, and it's very logical, through Zangezur, and unite with Nakhichevan,
and cut off
the mainland Azerbaijan, cut off Armenia completely from Iran, because that will mean just economic and political death to Armenia.
That's the only border we have open today. I mean, all four sides we have enemies.
Well,
Even
Georgia is not an enemy, but
they're not a friend either.
But there are some issues with because Georgia has announced that they are closing the border for military equipment and etc. for both of the parties, which means that neither Azerbaijan officially nor Armenia can get weaponry and military supplies through Georgia. And
they even stopped some of our citizens from coming back in.
Well, I don't know about that.
I remember seeing that.
But the point is that China is also a target in this game because, as we know, the true historic homeland of Turks were never in this area 2,000 years ago.
No, they weren't.
What is the true, real historic homeland of Turks? It's the Xinjiang region of China,
Mongol.
from Chinese part. And from the other part, the former Soviet part, is part of Kazakhstan, which is Altai. And everybody who lived in Armenia or Soviet Union knows what Altai is. Yeah. That's where the Turks come from. And there is huge Turkish population in Xinjiang that's creating problems for China. We all know that China is dealing with the issue in different ways.
Internal Muslim.
Yeah. And so now Turkey's aim is to reach back to their historic homeland. Of course, China is going to be against this, and it is against this, naturally and understandably. And they are trying to make and bridge the way towards Xinjiang, all the way towards Xinjiang. So and the first step goes through Armenia, goes through Artsakh.
And is this why the Pakistanis are trying to get involved in this as well? Basically, kind of unite a pan-Turkey from one ocean to the other, basically?
Pakistanis don't follow exactly the Turkish agenda. Pakistanis follow more a religious agenda, but this is not a religious war. But based on religion, they are trying to cuddle with Turkey and with Azerbaijan, because they have always cuddled with them, and because they see Turkey and Azerbaijan as military allies. So because of the conflict with India, they need allies on the continent. They see Turkey as the closest ally. For example, Saudi Arabia is another ally for Pakistan, but on the other hand, Saudi Arabia is actually an enemy of Turkey. So it's very intertwined and complicated and complex. Those
neighbors in the Arabian Peninsula, do you seriously think those issues that we are seeing in the Arabian Peninsula with Turkey, do you think those are real or a smoke cloud in a way?
No, they're very real because they're based in history. Whatever is based in history is real. Whatever is not based in history may not be real.
So this support from India may not be real because it's not in
India?
history really, right?
India?
Yeah.
For whom? For Armenia?
For Armenia, yeah.
Well, no, it may be very real. There have been connections, and even inter-ethnic relations have been on a very high and good level between Armenians and Indians. You know, we have had huge communities of Armenians in India.
And
We
big
have-
communities of Indians in Armenia,
Yeah.
as far as the medical program goes.
And the people have very close mentality and all that stuff. But the issue is that we should understand that this problem is going to get bigger and bigger. So that's why we fight fiercely, because everything is being decided on the battlefield. No matter what any power, any world power, any regional power does or speaks or says or puts pressure on, everything everywhere in history has been decided on the battlefield first. And the best example of that is Syria. In the Syrian civil war, everybody was against the Syrian government,
Yeah,
the
Assad.
whole world.
Yeah.
And everybody was supplying arms to the opposition. But Assad and his forces decided to fight to the last drop of blood. So they did that. And because they won the battlefield, they recovered the country for themselves and then help poured in from
And
different
more respect
parties.
from other parties. I mean, all these presidents and leaders that were trying to say Assad must go, all of them are gone and Assad is still there.
Exactly. And now,
crazy.
even some countries that supplied military aid to the rebels and the opposition, so-called, they are trying to re-establish diplomatic relations with Syrian government. So everything depends on how you fight and what you do on the battlefield. That's the starting point. We should always understand this, because there are many people in Armenia who at this point say, what if this power doesn't allow us to do this? What if that power wants us to do this?
All these powers are looking for us to do something for ourselves before they can do anything for us.
And we should understand one thing, that we shouldn't be caring who does what, who puts what kind of pressure, who helps or who doesn't help. We should pursue our own agenda for one simple reason. This is not a regular fight. This is not a war that will end with something that will be worked out later on. No matter what kind of stupidities people speak about negotiations, possible negotiations, the impossibility of solving the problem militarily. No, the problem is being actually solved militarily, and it's not our choice, it's the Azerbaijani's choice. So we should clearly understand that this is an existential fight. If we lose even part of Artsakh, we may consider that we lost the whole Armenia, because it's going to be a matter of time. So there is no option, basically, but to win this war.
It's win or go home, basically.
Or move forward. What
It's
about
win or
that
die.
option? Hayk, what do you think of the option of, do you think Armenia has enough to move forward in this war?
That's an excellent question, because many people ask that question. Maybe yes, maybe no. I don't have the answer to that. The military knows, I guess.
Move forward as in into Azerbaijan? Or
You mean
what?
technically and geographically?
as far
or-
as this geographically,
Yeah.
there is a lot. Look, what our own history doesn't teach us enough about that area and how much of that is actually Armenia.
No, it teaches. It teaches. It's-
Karabakh, Artsakh, sorry to cut you off, Hayk. Artsakh is part of Armenia. So for us to be talking about independence of Artsakh, beautiful thing to say. It sounds beautiful to have two countries, but that's part of Armenia.
That's a very dangerous idea as well, and I'm going to come
Yes.
to that. But before that, I want to answer to your first question about, do we have the capacity? Do we have the potential? Yeah, we have the potential. Do we have the technical capacity, the everything that's needed to do
Weaponry.
that? I don't know. The weaponry, enough. We have the weaponry, but is it enough? I don't know the answer to that. The issue is we shouldn't be caring even about that, because if it's fight or die, win or die situation, you take everything that's under your hand. Number one. Number two, you should gear up for that, because you have no other choice. What is your choice? Every single other choice that people are coming up with is a bogus idea. Or this will come, will save us. Well, that saving may cost us hell a lot, even worse than the loss. So,
So the relevance here between what's going on right now in Artsakh and you mentioned Syria. Now, as we've been seeing, apparently Israel has been sending weaponry right to these areas. Apparently last year the U.S. funded
Funded.
about $100 million to the
I
Israeli
heard there
military.
was hiking up of funds from the U.S. right before this war as well.
Yeah. So all of this is very similar to what you explained with Syria. But who, there has to be somebody that initiated this. Was it Erdogan or Aliyev, or is there a bigger power behind this movement? Because
Great
they may be trying to, for example, revolutionize Iran, or like you said, trying to get to China, or it can't be as black and white as what we see. Well, they're trying to take Artsakh back. Like you said, Artsakh, I don't think means that much to them. There has to be a bigger.
No,
agenda.
Armenia
There
means,
has- there has to be a
Armenia
bigger
means
movement,
everything to them. But this is also an excellent question. So I've got two excellent questions to answer now. But I'll start with yours. Well, the issue is that Azerbaijan has been preparing for this war for at least 26 years.
Since
it's that,
'94.
yeah.
Wow.
It's that
For
we...
this one.
Yes.
So what was the one in 2016?
That
what was
was
the one in
that
June?
was a prelude. In June, well, I would like very much to tell you what it was in June, but I'm not gonna go again into that. But I promise
Maybe
you,
off the podcast.
yeah, after podcast, surely.
All right.
But well, it was a very minor thing compared to what's happening now. I can tell you that the June, but April War 2016 was something more serious. But it was a prelude. It was a test war. And if that had worked, they would have had Artsakh then. So it didn't work.
I'm gonna real quick. I'm gonna guess 2016. Would you say had anything internal to do with it?
I guess also, yes.
Thank you.
Well, there is very strong suspicion, let me put it in a politically correct way at this point, that there was some treason that took place inside the Armenian government of the day, which is the former regime. And I mean, I personally have no doubts about it. My conviction is based on my analysis and the information that is available publicly, which is very trustworthy. But that's another issue. So now, Azerbaijan was preparing for this war for 30 years. It's that we, as a people, have acted stupidly, not believing into that. And this should be said openly. We have acted recklessly as people, as a society, as a country, for this past 26 whole years. Because we have always thought, oh, this is not going to happen because Russia will not allow it to happen. We have thought, oh, we have strong army, they're not going to be risk it, they're not going to be doing it. And I am actually one of the very few people, like 2, 3, 4 people, who was constantly saying that a big war is coming. They are preparing. It is impossible to radicalize the whole of your society, the whole of your youth, to raise them in the atmosphere of hate towards Armenians, genocidal hate. It is impossible to spend tens of billions of dollars, if not hundreds of billions of dollars, on military equipment and arms and weaponry, sophisticated weaponry, not to put that into economy, but to put it into arms and then let it go for nothing. You should use that if you buy that. We never believed those things. We were overconfident, we were overly optimistic, just we always are. And I was getting criticized extremely heavily by saying, oh, you're sowing panic, you are terrifying people, you are an alarmist, all this nonsense. And then April happened, and then I started saying, this is a prelude, something worse is coming. And again, I saw the same attitude in the public. So now we are in this existential threat. And again, in the society, there are views, they don't match the reality. Many people, I went through Facebook for the past hour when you were with your other guest, and I see so many different views and things that are so absurd and ridiculous. People just lack real, true understanding of what's happening, why is it happening, and what's going to be happening in the future. Now I'm coming to your question just to answer, because I'm grateful to you for raising the issue and putting it in that way, because that's the only right way. And I don't see many diasporans or many Armenians in diaspora realizing that the recognition, to put it very mildly, is not the best thing for Armenia and Armenians. And I'll tell you why. First of all, we have the Artsakh, so-called Artsakh Republic, and I'll tell you why I call it so-called, because to me, Artsakh is just integral part, an inseparable part of the Republic of Armenia. Why do we, what do we call as Republic of Artsakh? That's the Lagim, which is Lernayin Qarabaghi Inknavar Mars, created by Stalin himself, a fake
Republic.
A fake autonomous sub-republic, we should put it this way, sub-republic inside Azerbaijan, given from Soviet Armenia. And it's not just given to Azerbaijan, it's given from Soviet Armenia, taken from Soviet Armenia, given to Soviet Azerbaijan. And the borders of Lagim were drawn by Stalin. There's a suspicion himself, personally, on the map. And now we recognize that territory as Artsakh. While Artsakh is not that. Artsakh includes also the 7+ territories that we call liberated territories, that are really integral part of Artsakh. And now the fight, the war, and the battlefields run through these territories. Jabrail, which is Jerakan, Fizuli, all those territories are the liberated territories themselves. So our boys are dying for these territories right now.
So is it the connected territories to Karabakh itself? Basically,
Yeah,
you
but
have the Armenian land.
Yeah, but they are outside of the Soviet-created Lagim Republic.
No, that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is the territories that you're mentioning right now.
Yeah.
Just to understand where you're talking about is, you have the Armenian face, which is basically like the lady's face that they say, and then you have
That's the Soviet Armenian, yes.
and then you have Nagorno Karabakh, which is basically the little
Lagim.
piece, Lagim.
Yeah.
Now, the territories that you're mentioning right now, as far as part of that Artsakh, is it the connecting pieces? Basically, the white.
It is, yeah.
The
is
white
it-
piece of that flag.
That's
that
a
is-
good question for diasporans. Yeah, it is two regions are the connecting pieces between the Soviet Armenia's territory that we see the girl shape
Yes.
and the Lagim. Two are in that part, and the rest are surrounding the Artsakh from
Including
the north
Nakhichevan?
and from the east. No, Nakhichevan is on the
West.
other side. Is on the other side of Armenia.
West side.
Nakhichevan is divided from Azerbaijan by Armenia. Nakhichevan is also Armenia. We know that. Now I want to come to the issue. Why do we say recognition or independence is very bad, harmful, and dangerous? And why is just the simple reunification the best thing to do and the only choice actually that we have? But we don't pursue that as far as I'm concerned, as far as I see. Because first of all, if we recognize that the whole concept of self-determination of Artsakhis, our Artsakhi people, the Armenians of Artsakh, from Azerbaijan as a basis for our struggle in diplomatic and political arena, international arena, we're simply doing that, are recognizing that the administrative and political history of Artsakh starts from Stalin's decision under the Bolshevik occupation.
Is that in 1920?
21.
21. Now, Artsakh, with the whole territories and even territories that are still under control of Azerbaijan, more territories up to the very east of historic Armenia and the true Armenia, up to the river Arax, was part of the First Republic of Armenia. It historically and politically and internationally recognized was part of a Republic of Armenia.
And those are the lands I was saying we could push forward on.
Exactly. And if we push forward and if we reach the river, the Arax, Kur Arax, that some people call Kur Arax Republic of the future, that's going to give us huge security. Because the landscape is such that future attacks by land are going to be almost impossible on their part. And the Arax River has been the natural frontier of historic Armenia and the First Republic of Armenia.
I think
Now-
there was Armenians on the other side of that river too, if you ask me.
Partly, we may say so, but it was Arvank, the Caucasian or Caucasus Albania, which was a Christian culture very much under the Armenian influence. They vanished, of course. And then when the Seljuk Turks came, the predecessors of Azerbaijanis, the current fake name that they created, they just pushed and destroyed everybody else. So now, but there are also native people there who are of Persian descent, of Iranian descent, the Talish
Lezgins?
people, the Talish people, the Lezgins, and etc. They are beyond that natural border. Now, why?
Hold on, before you go on with this, I'm looking at the map of Armenia and Azerbaijan, Iran and Turkey right now. You have the map of Armenia, and I wish
Yeah.
I could show you guys on the screen, but we'll work on that as well. Sharing the damn screen. You have the
Let's
map of
fix Zoom first.
Zoom first. Yeah, you have the map of Armenia. You have Nakhichevan on the left,
Yes.
and then you have Artsakh on the right, or Nagorno Karabakh on the right, and then Azerbaijan. What you were saying with the Arax River is basically connecting all
Here.
of.
Somewhere here.
So it's here.
on
so
the right side, bro.
So then what river is this that's connecting here to Nakhichevan?
This is the same thing. You can go through the river.
Uh huh.
This is Arax here,
Okay.
down here. So this is the border.
So basically, going up here.
Yeah, we should just follow the path of Araks here and to Kur up there.
I see.
It's hard to see for me from here. So why is the idea so dangerous? Because if we go and recognize Artsakh, this is the most important part of your question. I want to ask a counter question. What does it give us, guys?
Absolutely nothing.
We recognized Artsakh, let's imagine. We just recognized it. Artsakh is an independent country recognized by the Republic of Armenia. What does it give us? Nothing.
Really.
Zero. What we did, we lost control, direct control over Artsakh, because now we can't intervene in our own territories' affairs. Now we created two Armenian states. By the way, no country has ever gotten stronger by dividing itself. Everybody in the history, Germany, Italy, everybody
Stronger.
has become stronger by coming together, by unifying,
Uniting, yeah.
right? Uniting. Now, why Soviet Union collapsed? Because everybody in the world wanted the country to be divided, not to be united as an empire. I mean, I'm not for Soviet Union and never have been, just giving you an example
Yeah.
how dividing benefits the adversary. Now, we believe that if we recognize, and now people are talking about remedial recognition, which is an international term, and that because Karabakh people, Artsakhi Armenians, are under existential threat. So some people believe that if we use that term and ask for international recognition, people will come and say, okay, you're under existential threat, then we should recognize your independence. Now, that's not going to happen. Very simply, that's absolutely not going to happen. We may recognize, nobody else will recognize.
Didn't Turkey do something like that?
Exactly.
It didn't
and
work
that's
too well, did it?
Exactly. That's an excellent question. Because Turkey captured half of Cyprus, which was a recognized country, internationally recognized country, and basically in Europe, it was basically essentially
Part of
a
Europe.
Greek country, the second Greece. They invaded, they took the half, they proclaimed a republic there, and they said, oh, we recognize this country. Now, Turkey has a lot of friends.
But none of them are recognizing
And
it.
Pakistan is Turkey's friend. And even Pakistan didn't recognize Northern Cyprus, the Turkish Republic of Cyprus. Why? Because it will create a lot of problems with European Union, with Greece, and etc. So if we imagine that one single country, well, maybe an island country somewhere in the Caribbean, in return of some favors, will recognize as things have happened with different self-proclaimed countries. But that will give us nothing. But even that will not happen. Because nobody will want to damage their relationship it's not in their interest. It's in nobody's interest with Turkey and with Azerbaijan and become enemies for these countries, right? They may be sympathizing with Armenia, but nobody will do that for Armenia.
Until Armenia does it for themselves first.
Well, Armenia does. Let's say Armenia does it for itself,
No,
even though
as
it's
part of Armenia. That's
Yeah.
I'm against two
and
nations.
I'm coming to that. Now, nobody has recognized it. Now, we made Karabakh, Artsakh, by recognizing it, if we recognize it, vulnerable to foreign internal intervention, political interventions. Because at that point, the possibility of intervention from outside, we don't know who's going to be in power in Artsakh, let's say in a couple of years, in a couple of months. Nobody knows.
Influence-wise.
No, even in power. Controlling Stepanakert, controlling Artsakh, it's going to be an Armenian administration, of course, but what kind of people are going to be there? We don't know. We don't know what kind of sympathies they will have. We don't know who may influence if they're an independent republic. We don't know who may influence what.
Any minute they can say
Maybe
"We're our own
peacekeepers
country."
will come, so-called peacekeepers will come and be placed there, and that means that we will lose total control of Artsakh forever, and we will not be in charge of destiny of Artsakh. The controlling power, which is going to be under the guise of peacekeeping forces, controlling the whole destiny politically of Artsakh and doing whatever they want to do. Now, this is, and there is the second part, the second gravest danger. If we recognize Artsakh, we cannot recognize it outside the Laghin territory, the smaller Stalin drawn map,
Fake map.
shape of Artsakh. Why? Because in that case, the 7 regions that our boys are dying for right now are going to be considered, and they are still considered by the international community, because we have done no work to tell them that this is Armenia, is going to be considered Azerbaijani territory. and we cannot recognize those territories as part of independent Artsakh. Plus, if even one country in Caribbean or in Africa will recognize Artsakh's independence, we'll never recognize those territories. Now, what do we do with these territories? These territories have been a pawn in negotiations with Azerbaijan for 26 years now, because the treasonous approach of Levon Ter-Petrosyan's regime and the subsequent two regimes of Kocharyan and Sargsyan has been, you know what, recognize Artsakh, and we will give you these territories, the 7 regions. That has been the Madrid principles. They have been updated in Kazan, which is a city in Russia. And then they have been reshaped into another document, which is essentially the same, but an updated version, time-wise updated, called the Lavrov Plan. Okay? So this has been the topic. Now we see that some people say, let's stop the war and start negotiate again. About what? About giving the territories that just 500 people gave their lives for? I mean, makes no sense, right? We have lack of clear judgment. The previous governments have never acted in the interests of Armenia. They have followed the treasonous approach of Levon Ter-Petrosyan. The whole independence thing is also a fake thing that happened. Because mind it, Artsakh came out of Soviet Azerbaijan, according to Soviet constitution, joined Soviet Armenia, and then, by the personal decision of Levon Ter-Petrosyan, was forced to declare independence, because my belief is, and my analysis is, and let me put it this way, not only my analysis or my belief is, that he just wanted to get rid of the issue altogether, Ter-Petrosyan.
I think
because
there's
if
much
that's
more
an
than that.
independent-
I have a feeling it's much
be.
more than what you said.
Could be, but we
Alright.
don't have like material proof, so that's why we cannot speculate about it.
So
any
what you're
further.
telling me is, basically, when Armenia declared independence from Soviet Russia, and Soviet Armenia,
Soviet Union, not
from the-
Soviet Russia.
From,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, from the Soviet Union, declared independence, all Levon Ter-Petrosyan had to do was say, Artsakh is part of Armenia.
Well, it unified. It unified
I understand.
officially.
I understand.
We had members of parliament from Artsakh sitting in the Armenian parliament because it was part of Armenia.
So what it was is basically Levon Ter-Petrosyan at that time, he basically washed the blood off his hands. He said, you know what, I don't want to deal with it. You deal with it on your own, and you become your
Exactly, and he was referring the international community and the mediators to Artsakh, saying, well, I don't have anything to do with this. Go talk to them, because he knew they are tough. But also, don't forget that in 1997 or 8, he came up with this very famous article that served as a basis for his removal from power. Պատերազմ թե խաղաղություն, war or
Give up
peace.
some territories for peace.
No, he just openly said in that article that, you know what, to have peace with Azerbaijanis, we should give Artsakh to them, find a formula for them, to work with them. Let's give that, and, let's become a full member of international community, etc. And don't forget, 10 years ago, what Serge Sargsyan did. He went on and he signed this Zurich documents with Turkey, Հայ-Թուրքական արձանագրություններ, the Zurich protocols, Armenian-Turkish protocols. That was another treasonous document. So, the mindset has always been so screwed up. We have never had a national approach. Now, why am I saying that Artsakh and the surrounding territories up to Arax River were part of Republic of Armenia? Because we have two major internationally recognized documents. Number one is the League of Nations document, which recognizes those territories of the Republic of Armenia, and minded that the first Republic of Armenia was an internationally recognized entity.
Yes.
It had an embassy in Washington, D.C. It was a full-time recognized state. So those territories were part of Republic of Armenia. Number two, President Woodrow Wilson's arbitral award that was mandated, that was delegated by the international community after the World War I to Wilson to draw map of a new Armenia and basically the Ottoman Turkey, to divide it to the native people
Yes.
who have been subjects to genocide and annihilation by the Turkey. And according to that document, which after the moment of the signing entered into full force, those territories are also part of the Republic of Armenia. Now we have
And this was signed by
President Woodrow Wilson.
Democratic President Woodrow Wilson.
And
Continue.
this is Wilson. Wilson was the president, the American president, who took part in the World War I victory for the world.
Yeah.
Now, we should understand that we have faced a huge problem during these past 3 administrations. It is that, according to Ter-Petrosyan's, and he's the godfather of all these ideas, according to Ter-Petrosyan's ideology, history is nothing to refer to. It's valueless. It has no value. The world is laughing at people who refer to history in political terms, right? So that's why he came up with this idea that, well, the start of the Artsakh's political status should be considered the Azerbaijani Soviet Republic's, period. There was an occupation. One more issue, and I'll return to this, is that Azerbaijan, by the way, by declaring independence from Soviet Union in 1991, declared itself continuation of the first Azerbaijani Republic, 1918, 1921, and that republic never included Artsakh and its territories in its, territory. Now, why we never, on the government level, on the state level, never claimed those things? Why we never promoted these ideas? Why we always went from the starting point of Soviet Azerbaijan? Why?
Why?
Again, because of Levon Ter-Petrosyan. And his, what he did, the damage that he did to Armenia, I guess is irreparable.
Treason.
We have a war today because of the peace treaty, because of truce, ceasefire, that he signed in 1994. We were going to get to, I don't know where.
Yeah.
We were victorious. The plains were open to Araks and even further beyond that point. The Talish people have declared their own independent republic inside Azerbaijan, which meant destruction of Azerbaijan from inside. And suddenly Yeltsin calls and puts pressure on Levon Ter-Petrosyan.
I have a feeling it was besides Yeltsin.
Because
something bigger.
no,
than Yeltsin.
Aliyev had asked him to put pressure, promising to get more under the Russian influence. So Yeltsin called, and Ter-Petrosyan did abide by the demand and signed a ceasefire when our troops were victorious. That, to me, personally, is equal to state treason.
Wow. Pretty much raised the white flag when we're winning.
That's why we essentially gave them opportunity to regroup, to recover, to kickstart their oil industry, to buy billions and billions of dollars worth of equipment, military equipment and
come
arms.
back 26 years later.
And come back 26 years later. So now to return to the very first question, they were preparing for this. We were not preparing in terms of ideas, in terms of being ready. Yes, the army was preparing, but ideologically, we never accepted the fact that another huge attack is coming. Why it happened now? Happened because of the pandemic, happened because of some...
Timing was perfect.
For them, it was
vulnerable
perfect.
time.
Also, we had a political change inside the country that never brings like huge stability to any country. Let me put it mildly. We had some divisions in the society, very strong divisions post-revolution, and a lot of other aspects as well that I would like not to touch now, but many people understand. So they thought, wait, why should we keep on killing a soldier a day that they were doing during 30 years to demoralize us? Why would we be doing that? Let's kill as many as we can, full force. Turkey is on the path of expansion.
They're backing us up.
Yeah, and Turks are trying to reinstitute the Ottoman Empire, basically.
Pan-Turkism plan, basically.
Yeah, but
play.
it's also, the Turks are also doing something that they never did before in history. So Turks have had 3 national ideologies. The first one was Pan-Islamism, which the pallbearer for that was Sultan Abdul Hamid. We know the Hamidian massacres.
Mm-hmm.
Then which Pan-Islamism was an ideology that said whoever is not Muslim should be destroyed. But then they saw it doesn't work, so they went for Pan-Osmanism, which was a more tolerant ideology in a way, saying that everybody who's a Turkish citizen, an Ottoman citizen, should be an Ottoman, a citizen of this country, and everybody should get this identity, an Ottoman identity. It didn't work, and it failed monumentally. So after that, we know the Young Turks, the İttihat ve Terakki party came to power. the genociders, they came up with this ideology: who is not a Turk, because the previous two ideologies didn't work, should be eliminated and destroyed. So they committed the genocide. Now, and then came Kemal, who reformed the country politically, who saved Turkey from annihilation after World War I by fighting again on the battlefield and fighting every single treaty that the international community had adopted regarding Turkey. So he established a new country. Now, with a new leadership, well, not new, with this current leadership of Turkey, they have a fourth ideology. And many Armenians wrongfully think this is a neo-Osmanism, neo-Ottomanism, or this is a pan-Turkism. No, it's neither. It's the both at the same time, which makes it more lethal, because it's pan-Islamism mixed with pan-Turkism. So it's Turkish Islamism that's very, very, very dangerous. And they're expanding. They are controlling parts of the northern part of Syria. They essentially annexed northern part of Syria. They have Turkish police forces there. They have Turkish administration there, Turkish flags flying, Turkish army
Do
there.
you think Syria is just going to let that go?
Well, Syria just cannot do anything with that at this point, because it's going to be an all-out open war with Turkey.
And you're talking about the same people that occupy a very large part of Germany as well.
Well, that's population-wise, that's immigration, that's the reference is not very direct.
But I mean, again,
in that way.
these guys are planting seeds everywhere.
Of course, that's a policy, because their leadership has openly said that we will take Europe by immigration. They have said that openly, and
That's where I'm
They
going. with
threaten
this.
Russia with their immigration today.
yeah. Well,
And they get away with
they
it.
see Crimea as a basis for them, because Crimea Tatars are ethnic Turks. They did the same with Kosovo. They established Kosovo. They helped in establishing Kosovo, which is Kosovo Albanians are ethnic Turks as well. So they control, and this is not a widely known fact, especially amongst us, Turkey controls part of Iraq. They have invaded actually Iraq, and Iraq is also an independent country. And they have military bases there, and the Iraqi government that is an ally of the United States is asking, so-called asking, or demanding Turkey to withdraw the forces from there. And Turkey declines, says no. I mean, they are conducting an expansionist, aggressive policy
Throughout the world.
throughout the world, and especially in the region. You know,
How about Africa? They're in Africa.
Of
They've
course.
got their hands in Africa.
but they're
too.
in Libya. They're fighting Saudi Arabia and Emirates. That's why I came up with this idea, saying that why don't we go to Emirates that are very friendly to Armenia and Armenians? Why don't we go to Saudis? They never recognized Armenia, but Saudis are eager to fight Turkish forces anywhere they
For
can.
their own sake at the end of the day.
Because it's in their interest. Why don't we go and talk to them? I mean, Saudis are famous for checkbook diplomacy. They write checks for a couple of $1 billion for different causes very easily. $1 billion is a lifesaver for Armenia.
But
at
what
this
is it?
point.
What does it cost us in the long run?
Well, there are risks with that, associated with that. The first risk is Iran. Iran is a friendly country for Armenia, and Saudis are basically at war with Iran. It's not military action, but it's like proxy war everywhere. So they are mortal enemies. But there is a way to deal with that. Iran has been always very wise in understanding Armenia's friendship with U.S., with the United States. U.S. has been very wise understanding Armenia's friendship with Iran. That it's,
Do you think so?
yeah.
I think majority of what's going on today. That's just listen. Before we go any further, I am not any political guy. I'm not a politician. I just have opinions.
You're just a wise nut.
I'm just a wise nut, as the show
As
says.
a wise nut, can you reintroduce the guest for those of the viewers who are just joining in?
We have political scientist Dr. Hayk Martirosyan with us.
Well, Dr. Hayk actually has a PhD in political science from the name of the school, Sorbonne in Paris, which is equivalent to apparently the Harvard and the Oxfords of the world, right? That's where you got your doctorate
They
from?
say it is.
Yeah. So we're talking politics, specifically Armenian politics, for those of you that are just joining us. If you have questions, please go ahead and type in. We'll try to get to as many questions as we
and
can.
obviously
Just
share
before
the
we go to questions, just one point. So just to finish the answer, the Iranian part is easy to deal with, because all Armenia shall do in terms of asking help from Emiratis and Saudis should be just explaining and giving some guarantees to Iran that this cooperation will never, in any case, be directed at Iran. That's it. It's going to be for the defense of Armenia. And I'm pretty sure Iranians will understand that, and they will not be like very unhappy with this thing, because this is an existential fight for Armenia. And one very last thing, just returning to the issue of recognition, people mistakenly in Armenia and in diaspora believe that, and it's huge numbers of people, that recognition will give some security guarantees to Artsakh. Well, guess what?
You talking about the recognition of Artsakh or the genocide?
Artsakh. No, genocide is not an issue at this point here around this table.
We're past that today.
Well, I have a surprise for those people. There's not a single country that has been subject to aggression by an aggressor, subject to war, that hasn't been recognized. So recognition gives zero guarantees of security. And if we believe that the aggressed is going to get protection from international community, that's never happening unless you have strong allies who rush to your aid and help.
Or you're ready to fight, one or the other.
Yeah, or you have the capacity to fight. I mean, recognition means zero. So essentially, by going for the recognition, instead of just announcing the reunification of Artsakh and the liberated territories with Armenia on the basis of the First Republic and the international documents, we throw all of that into garbage, into trash bin, and we go from the point of Soviet Bolshevik occupation of Artsakh, and we start from there on, putting ourselves under potential future pressure by the negotiating parties, negotiations. I mean, we should cut off, we should destroy the whole negotiation process immediately now, because it's destroyed already. Azerbaijan did that. We didn't do that. Minsk Group was a good format. Whatever was being discussed was not good. The Madrid Principles, the Kazan, the Lavrov Plan was extremely bad for Armenia. But the Minsk Group format, US, France, Russia, chairmanship, was good. But now that format should be considered dead.
And if you
because
lose
there
the
is war.
What if you lose that format and then Turkey gets into the mix?
No,
If you
Turkey
lose
can.
that
Turkey
format-
is in the mix, not in
No.
diplomatic way. Turkey wants to be a negotiator, but if you have no negotiations, if you say, you know what, guys, what Israel does, you know what, guys, we don't negotiate with you guys. You came to commit a genocide. You came to take all of our land, our country, to destroy us, and you killed already so many people. There's nothing we're going to negotiate with you. We know you want to destroy us. So here it is. This is part of our country. And we should appeal to our allies and ask them, what are you waiting for? Or what are the preconditions? Are you putting some preconditions against us? Or are you going to be rushing to our help directly without any preconditions? Because some people believe that there might be preconditions of putting peacekeeping forces in Artsakh in return for rushing to our aid. No, allies come to your aid when you fight for your life immediately, without hesitation, without preconditions, without anything.
But I mean, that's the problem right now. Is basically Azerbaijan is saying that no, Artsakh is Azerbaijan. Armenia is saying no, Artsakh is Armenia, and the world is basically sitting down with their hands in their laps, saying, "You figure it out."
Of course.
So I mean, what is the solution to that? If
Again, I told you.
I understand that, but that
To
nothing.
win on the battlefield.
And
basically
also
just-
involve new allies.
see. Well, that's what we were discussing this with
The
a
important
couple of our-
allies are not being used
No,
today,
I know.
is what he's saying.
We were discussing this with
Potential allies.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
were discussing this with a couple of our friends that they were saying, some of them were saying, the ceasefire should happen. We need peace. We need peace. I was telling them, I think we should just continue pushing forward.
Of course.
It's easy to say though, man. I mean,
I know.
I
Because
always
you
say
have-
that myself.
Hey, that's
but
the only
have to.
choice we
Listen,
have.
we're four Armenian men sitting here, and I always have a hard time saying that to myself because if I'm not on that line, I can't say that. I haven't served for Armenia's military. I don't reserve the right to say that.
No. That's
just-
also a wrong. No, that's a very wrong approach. Forgive me for saying that, because I'm sure you have helped the cause.
Yes.
Doing your part. It's not that everybody should be on the front line holding a Kalashnikov or shooting a cannon. No, that's not a wise approach. Everybody should do their proper work because it's a collective effort. War is a You cannot conduct a war without bakers who bake bread.
Definitely.
And saying to a baker, oh, you know what, you can't speak up, or you can't speak out, or you can't speak your mind because you're not there, you're not fighting in the trenches, that's not going to work. I mean, the same thing. We have diasporans who have given $1 million or $500,000, and they are not multi-millionaires. They have maybe 2-3 million. They've given. They've done as much, almost, as a soldier who's doing their part, not in the trenches, of course, because these people are risking their lives, but a soldier who's doing his part, supplying or driving a truck. You know, I mean, everybody does their part. So no, you have the right to say things. It's not that you should be in the trenches and gain your right that way. Okay, number one. Number two. What was it? What was your question?
I was saying that basically we should continue to just push forward.
Yeah.
Move forward, because you basically mentioned it. I had no idea that the war was won, and Levon Bedrosian basically drew a white flag and said,
it wasn't won, but it was in our favor. It's like, you know what?
If we weren't winning,
I'll tell you in different.
If we hadn't won or weren't winning, they wouldn't have.
Let me give you a proof. Let me give you a brief proof. So there is this Soviet Army General Norat Grigoryan's.
Okay.
God,
I'm sure you heard about him. I can call him a senior friend of mine, and we had a couple of conversations about these topics. And once he told me, and I told him, General, I mean, he was the one who established the Armenian army after the war, and he was the
91 through 94, right?
Yeah, and he was the second in command of the Soviet forces in Afghanistan. So he's this big military figure in Soviet history and in Armenian, independent Armenia's history. And he's 90-something years old, but he's very sharp still. So I said, General, why didn't we go to the rivers? You know what his answer was? He said, well, you know what? I was standing on a hilltop looking in my binoculars, and I thought I saw the river. And I thought we should push up to there because the plain was perfectly free and empty. Everybody had run away. And I said, so why didn't you do that? And he, being the honest and absolutely this charming guy, he said, because I was stupid. And I said, why? He said, because I was not a politician. I had no idea about the history. I had no idea about the strategic importance of this thing. I was just a general carrying out orders. And he says, you know what? Ter-Petrosyan told me, don't push forward. Stop. And he says, if I knew the utmost historical and life-saving or life-changing significance of these territories, I would push forward without hesitation. I would disobey every single order coming from Yerevan because nobody could stop me.
Disobey at that time is just you don't answer. You
the
don't
same,
have connection,
exactly,
basically.
exactly. The same thing was done by Commandos, the general, except he was successful in doing it. When Ter-Petrosyan was in Iran, he pushed forward with Vazgen Sargsyan. They conducted this operation, wedding in the mountains, and they took Shushi, which changed the whole dynamics of the war. So this is how it happened. Now, you raised also a very important question and made a very important statement. We should understand, if we stop now, everybody wants the war to stop, right? I want it to stop. You want it to stop. Nobody wants to lose any more guys. But we should understand one thing extremely clearly. If we stop it now without registering gains, and gains can be only territorial.
That's it.
That's something that connects land to Artsakh. Basically.
That's the symbol of victory. The victories are not moral, right? We have this moral victory issue in Armenian history. We say, well, that was not a victory, but it was a moral victory. It's almost a nonsense. Now, if we don't register this kind of victory, or at least advances, if we're unable to break them or destroy them, we at least should register some gains. If we don't do that, we guarantee for ourselves a future even deadlier war where we're going to be losing even more people. So it is strategically and politically and militarily way better and the only way to save ourselves from a future war to finish this one by moving forward, not to stop it by a ceasefire, by a truce, or by any kind of
all
treaty.
All those soldiers would have died in vain. What would be the point of all
Exactly.
this?
Exactly. The point would have been that we defended the whole country. We didn't give much, or we didn't give a lot,
Not enough.
or we didn't give anything at all. I don't know which one is going to be the case at that point if that happens. But then there's no point for this. I mean, these deaths are going to be in vain, and they cannot be. Too much blood has been shed, and it's extremely valuable blood, 18, 20-year-old and everybody is a hero there. I want to tell you guys also one thing. Let's not separate and say this guy was a hero, that guy was I understand the significance of that. We should understand every single Armenian with a weapon is a hero now, is an absolute hero now.
100%.
The whole people are heroes now. So we shouldn't be just saying, oh, this one is a hero, this one should get an award. We will sort things out after the war. Now every single guy, people who deliver clothing from Yerevan to the front lines are also heroes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Everybody is.
And sorry, the one thing that a lot of you should understand, and a lot of people, everybody who's listening should understand is, take a couple steps back and understand this. We've basically almost lost, and God willing, everything pushes forward, and we come back as winners. But we've basically lost 3 generations of boys in a matter of 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You're talking about year 2000, 2001, and 2002 born kids. When you hear the year 2000, 2001, 2002, you think, oh, it was a couple years ago. This is our generation. These are 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that we've basically 3 generations, guys. 3 generations.
And future generations
And future
that will never be born.
Yeah, we've lost in a matter of 2 weeks. How could we basically roll over and say, well, it was a good try? No, we can't. It baffles me because I look at my younger cousins who were born in 2000, who were born in 2001, who were born in 2002, and I was like, I remember, playing with them when they were kids, and you have these same kids on the battlefield fighting for our country. There is no ceasefire. You push forward.
We should also understand, besides that, very good point, thank you, but we should also understand one thing strategically. They have a national idea. They don't need Karabakh. They need Armenia gone to unify. Look at them. They came from China, from Altai. They created a homeland for themselves. They destroyed the local people. They established a country. They are expanding. They are an ever-expanding force. They need our territory without us. That's forever. Unless they are divided, they are weakened, and they are gone as a unified, strong countries, we are going to be facing this existential threat non-stop. Our point must be to try to help the natives of Azerbaijan to do their work from inside. We should guarantee them independence. The Armenian government, the Artsakh government, the Armenian, some parliamentarians did good stuff by talking to Talish people directly and calling on them not to fight and just pass to our side and guaranteeing them safety and hospitality. But that should become a state policy. We should create a new Armenia in the future after the war, completely new Armenia, because we never created that. Even after the revolution, we didn't create a new Armenia. We called it a new Armenia. It wasn't a new Armenia.
When you say create, what do you mean by create a new
Like
Armenia?
reshape,
New laws, new bylaws,
reshape
we should
rules.
come up with a real ideology, with a national ideology. We should become just like Israel became after the Holocaust. When they came up with never again.
We can't do that.
No, we can. No, we can.
No, we cannot go kill people for no reason.
Well, I'm not going to go into those things. I mean, we should take the stance. We should adopt the ideology that, you know what, guys, we don't care about who thinks what about us, who does what about us, what the international community says. This is our interest. We're going to pursue this 100%. And we should arm ourselves. We should pursue this, or the whole idea that I said, the First Republic, the territories, and etc. We should limit the speech of the people who who disseminate treasonous ideas.
Yes.
And all of those things.
And
anyway,
I think fund.
yeah, and
Look
we
what's
should.
happening in Israel, man.
And-
You think Israel is becoming Israel because of just their GDP? How much
You think
money?
it's coming from a fundraiser? It's coming from your tax dollars. Come on, man. I gotta take.
Yeah, but we need to get allies who would give us their tax dollars. And we have that capacity.
Look at the diaspora.
Yeah.
I think we're powerful enough to.
But also, let me tell you this: we had 2 former presidents who are being accused by many in serious corruption.
100%.
Why we never did something to recover that money and direct it towards the army and new weaponry? New technologies.
You have to ask us that question. You have to answer that question
Because we were too velvety after the government
You think we're
change.
we're-
After the revolution.
Do you think we're soft now? We're too soft?
We have been soft. I mean, it's out of discussion. Nobody even questions that.
So a lot of people are asking. They're
It's
saying,
called
"What is
Tavish, right? You
so-
remember the velvet thing?
Of course, but what you were part of the Velvet Revolution.
Yeah,
as
but
far
I
as-
wasn't velvet.
No,
I
no,
was
no,
the
no, no,
toughest
no.
one. That's
I
why I
know.
became. That's why I became hated by them, and I became the
I know.
radical. They called me, "Oh, you're so extreme. Oh, you're so radical. What do you suggest? We put them in jail. What do you suggest? We take all the money. It's gonna be the dissemination of the capital and of the money." And I said, yes, if it's corrupt, stolen money, we should take it by force, return it to the state coffers, and direct it towards the army and the country. Well, I mean, how do you let the oligarchs who became rich because of fake monopolies, artificial monopolies, who became rich because they evaded taxes, whose whole capital is just stolen money from the people that never entered the coffers of the public, how can you let them run free and tell them, oh, we're for unity, we're for peace, inside
But
peace, and etc.?
Do you think Pashinyan
The former
has or
officials.
had the power to do that though? As far as, I mean,
I will tell you this. Pashinyan, in the aftermath of the so-called revolution, because in my belief, revolution never happened, unfortunately. I thought I'm participating in it, but then I saw it's not a revolution, it's just a change of power, change of people. And I've said this at
choreographed
length.
change of power.
We're glad, we're glad Edgar's not here.
That's,
to hear that.
that's a different topic. Well, mind it, Pashinyan had every tool in his arsenal to use. He had such immense support in the aftermath of revolution. He
Support
could
from
do
who?
from people. He could do anything he wanted to do. Anything he wanted to do. So the answer to your question is yes. He had all the power. He had all the means. He had all the tools to do anything he wanted to do.
Did he do it?
But well, let's
You know the answer.
Let's take a step back though. If it was just a change of power, whether he had the power or not is irrelevant because the people could have been behind him, by his side, but that doesn't mean anything because if the revolution in essence was not truly a revolution, it was just change of power, that means it was all coordinated. How could he have the power to do anything?
Well, you have the power to do because you have the public support. That's power already. And if you have the idea for systemic change, you can do without any hurdles or any difficulties. Nobody's going to criticize you. Nobody's going to stop you because these things are expected from you. That's your power, that you deliver what's expected from you and you use the whole toolbox that's at your disposal.
But do you think, though, as far as again going back to the revolution, he had to have had some type of
External?
support backing, whether it be U.S., I don't know, England.
Can we? Well, there was no external.
Soros.
There was no. No. What's Soros? That Soros thing is such a joke. I mean, Aliyev calls the revolution financed by Soros. It's such a ridiculous thing. I mean, don't overblow Soros's importance. Soros is
Don't go down the rabbit hole.
No, in my personal opinion,
That was for Jake.
Soros is almost a demented, elderly person with his crazy ideas or whatever that is. He's pumping money around, trying to do something. But who is he to run the Armenian people or to, direct Armenian people to do the revolution? These things are so insulting towards our people, towards our individuals even. Yes, there is the foundation there, and I'm not going to go into these things. That's the topic for another day. And also, what could have been done? But I can tell you and guarantee you one thing. There was no external involvement in the revolution, at least the second part of it. Let me put it this way. This sounds
Well, he
enigmatic.
did prepare for 3 months. Pashinyan admitted to
This-
preparing for 3 months.
This may be sounding a bit enigmatic, but I promise you, if you're interested, we may talk about this. We will talk about this after the war, when we have an open field for political discussions, and then I promise you, we can talk at
Not a
length.
problem.
Perfect.
No.
So
But can we get it to one of these couple of these comments
Sure.
because there's people basically Levik and multiple other people basically commenting saying the same thing over and over and over and over again. And you probably would know the best answer to this is why are we not reaching out to Russia and saying help us?
Do you want to?
Gosh, these guys, Armenians are so smart. I mean, this is $1 million question.
This is not $1 million question. I think it's the most silliest question that any of these people can ask, though.
No, that's the smartest question.
Why? You tell us.
Because everybody expects us to reach out and ask, dear Russians, you're our only ally, not the closest. They are the closest, but also the only ally.
Okay.
Why don't you reach out and help us? We don't ask that question. That question should be asked publicly, because those kind of things are not the stupid idea that many people have. All diplomacy is conducted behind the closed doors. No. Like details in diplomacy or in diplomatic relations are conducted behind closed doors. The major, big picture diplomacy is always conducted very publicly.
Okay.
Because you have to have accountability to our own people. Now, why don't we do that? I will say I don't know, even though I think I know. Why don't we do that? But the issue here is Russia is the only ally we have. And I don't imagine any other country going into a war, being aggressed, being subject of an aggression, going into a war with two major, very well-armed powers, all alone, maybe, yes, maybe not, maybe receiving some arms from your allies, but not receiving direct participation from your allies, fighting side by side with you and supplying you with very powerful weapons at this point. This doesn't look normal. There is no other country that does these things all alone. Of course, we know that we say that we don't need any help, and I can understand that, and I'm not criticizing that approach of the government, by the way. I want to make this clear. This may sound a bit bizarre, but I'm not criticizing the Armenian government for this at all. I know why the government says this. That's my opinion, and I have my own opinion about this. But it's not normal that we are forced to do that. This lets me guess or think that maybe there are preconditions for the help to come, or maybe there is a long wait period before we bleed terribly and then the help comes.
Well, let me ask you this. Obviously, there's a treaty between Armenia and Russia that was signed. Now,
Yes.
the story behind that is Artsakh is its own territory.
the
It's not part of Armenia.
the Hayk, the Odeka.
Yeah,
Yes, and
that's
this
one.
is also our
Yes,
fault
so-
that Artsakh
yes.
is.
So
That's-
if Armenia
that's one.
Armenia recognizes Artsakh, would that be what Russia's been asking for the last 2 weeks?
Russia doesn't want that to happen, but if we'd recognize Artsakh as part of Armenia, we'd say this is Armenian, now come to our help. It would have been very difficult for Russia to say, well, you know what, Artsakh is not Armenia. Because Armenia says it is Armenia. And in that case, Armenia could ask to Russia, is Crimea Russia? In that case?
Ooh. There's a lot of
But,
questions.
but
do you
you're
don't
talking
think-
about Russia, who's basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's all over the place. Russia is aiding Armenia and aiding Azerbaijan with weapons right now.
selling.
Well, I'm not sure they are aiding Azerbaijan right now with
Well,
weapons.
it's everywhere.
No, they have sold for 4 billion once
I mean,
and some
that,
more
I would
later.
consider
No,
that
not-
aiding, though.
No, I know. We're not talking. I'm talking about right this moment during the war.
During the war.
I'm not sure that right at this point they are supplying weapons. I'm not sure at all, for the sake of honesty and integrity. But they have sold, which is a major problem, because I don't imagine a country selling extremely lethal, very dangerous arms to your closest allies' worst enemy. And now, I mean, I would like Russian forces to come in without any diplomacy with Azerbaijan, etc. To come in, that's how it's supposed to be in real normal life situation. Come in, fight for us, fight with us, because if they were under threat and they would ask for help from Armenia, Armenian forces, according to the treaty signed with, in the framework of ODKB, which is HAPK,
Yes.
Հավաքական անվտանգության կազմակերպություն, the organization, the NATO type of thing that unites Russia, Armenia,
Opposite of NATO
Kazakhstan, and
kind of thing,
Belarus.
basically.
I wouldn't call it opposite, but could be. I don't know.
Well, how many of those countries in the HOP group are actually Turkic countries? Can we look at that?
There is Kazakhstan, there is Belarus. That's believed. That's not Turkic, of course. That's believed. It's supplying. I mean, I just saw.
If you ask me, I think look, Russia could get involved in this, and this thing will be over by the weekend. But I think it has a lot to do with the relationship Putin and Pashinyan have. I think Putin is holding back because of that. There's a
That
lot
may
of,
be part of it. There is suspicion by many that that may play a part, but we should also look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is a bigger policy. That may be part, maybe not, but the bigger policy is something that Turkey and Azerbaijan are seen to be too valuable for Russia to go, all the way down and confront them. So I don't know. At this point, we are fighting fiercely. We are defending ourselves. We are a heroic people. Unbelievable acts are taking place. But you know what? No country has ever been totally victorious fighting two strong powers all alone, all by themselves. So this is something we should think about. United States of America goes to war. The most powerful country in the world always goes with allies, at least one or two.
Of course.
Always. France
and never in their own lands. Let's remember that.
France goes to war always with allies. Strongest powers go to war with allies. We are fighting very strong two countries, basically all alone.
And where do we stand? And I don't know if you can talk about this or not, or if you have any connection in Armenia or in Artsakh, but
Of course I do.
Where do we stand? Where are we?
In which way?
Militarily.
Militarily, on the battlefield.
Position-wise.
Position-wise,
I would
yeah.
like not to comment on that. I could
Right now
tell
it's
you that
true.
what matters now, most of all, is the spirit.
yeah.
And I can tell you one more thing. I think my opinion is that we need to pay attention to pay more attention to air, because this fight is predominantly taking place in the air.
Yeah.
We are fighting from the land. This is a very peculiar topic. We should, as a people, as a nation, and the diaspora should think about this. This is very important that we shift the balance towards us
Aerial assaults, basically. you're
being towards us being let me put it this way, predominant in the air. And I'm putting this very mildly and very diplomatically. But spirit wise, guys are fighting like lions.
Yeah.
And mind you, they're fighting also very seasoned, hardcore, hardline international terrorists, Islamist terrorists. There are
Jihadists
videos,
and mercenaries.
ISIS, bro.
Like,
There are
quick
videos,
question.
ISIS and
So we're fighting global terrorism on the front lines in Armenia.
yes.
All these countries, NATO countries, everywhere in the world, money is taken out of their budgets on a yearly for global terrorism fight, including this country we're sitting in now. Where is all that money going when Armenia is fighting today against global terrorism? Where is that money?
I guess your question has the answer in it.
Silence?
Yeah, because it's politics. It's all about. But now there's one lesson we should learn from this. All this issue and the question you raise. Armenians have a disease. It's a mental type of disease in our mentality, that we are diseased by thoughts of paying way too much attention to what the international community says or thinks. And mind you, there is no such thing as international community. There are different countries. There may be majority in one issue, a majority in a different issue. China is part of international community. Do you think China and America always agree on the same matter?
Of course not.
Do you think Pakistan and India agree on the same matter? Or Uganda and Australia agree on the same matter always? No. What is an international community? We represent it as if it's one single unity and entity. It is not. The international community is what you create for yourself. You create a friendly camp, or you create an animus friend.
Okay, let's go
camp.
back to
And then-
NATO, for example.
Yeah.
NATO's establishment. Established NATO just simply to fight the USSR. The existence of NATO was
Yeah.
made to fight USSR and communism, correct?
Yeah.
Communism ceases to exist for the last 30 years. USSR ceases to exist for the 30 years. Why is NATO still around?
It's Russia now. It's China now. It's a lot of other powers now. Don't forget that NATO had some operations outside of Russian area in different parts of the world.
Reason I'm asking about NATO,
It's
now
a
we have
treaty.
Turkey. We have
Yeah.
Turkey as a NATO ally of
Yes.
the United States. only two countries that have any type of outside material as far as military wear is from Israel and the U.S. You got the F-16s from Turkey, made in the U.S., fighting against Armenians.
Not only, also Bayraktar drones that are very deadly weapons.
From Israel.
They're killing drones.
From Israel.
No, they're Turkish. Bayraktar are Turkish. But there are Israeli drones as well.
Which are the kamikaze type of drones.
Also, not only.
Wow.
There are ordnance carrying drones, but also kamikaze type of drones. There are all kinds of drones.
That's crazy.
And Azerbaijan is using them, like, I mean, the guess is that they have many. Let me put it this way.
Yeah,
Well,
but
I
they're
mean,
being shot
Look,
down left
during
and
the last
right.
2 weeks, 30 flights from Israel.
We are very successful in shooting them down, but also mind it, this is the first drone war in the human history.
And mind you, when the rain starts and the snow starts, those drones are going to be useless.
Yeah, but then also the war stops, and you don't know if that's going to be in your advantage or in your disadvantage. That depends on which positions you will have, because whoever has the better positions, they're going to be digging in,
Yeah.
and they're going to be fortifying their positions, and it's going to be harder for the other part. So rain and snow is not always good for all the parties. Now, this is the first drone war in human history. There have been drone operations. We know United States is the leader of drone operations. A handful of countries, just a few, produce drones, military drones, attack drones, killer drones, as they
How
say.
is it the first one though? I mean, in Iraq, Afghanistan, are
It wasn't.
we,
It
are
was
we using drones?
Wasn't,
No,
of
the-
course, but those are
Attack
and mind it, yeah, attack drones as well. But those drones have been used mainly as CIA operations, even not Pentagon, which was previously controlling the drone operations. It was transferred to CIA, and those are drone attack killings, targeted killings. Never in human history drones have been used in a conventional warfare. This is an
Armenia is always
unconventional
part of
warfare.
history some way, somehow.
Yeah.
Huh?
So this is the first time that an army of a country is using drones as basically and essentially, according to analysts, the main weapon of the war.
I think 80% of our casualties are coming from those
Yeah.
drones.
And that's why they're not sending a lot of the soldiers in the front lines, because it's useless.
What I'm curious is why aren't we able to purchase drones? Why aren't we able to use drones? Why aren't we able to utilize
Armenia
drones?
has its own program inside, internal.
Uh,
Not the best, maybe. but-
I rather not comment on that
Okay.
at this point. You understand me, but that's a great question you asked again. Again, another great question, but that question should be answered after the war. But that's a question that we should definitely ask. We should
So
keep
let
in
me
mind.
let me ask a war question then. Hopefully, it's a war
Well, was
question.
mine not a war question?
Not all war
That's a
questions will be
post-war
answered.
Not all word
Nah, well,
questions are
we just
good
figured out it's a
questions.
post-war question. I was hoping to get an answer today, but now I guess it's a post-war
Well, we've
question.
learned it's a post-war
I
question.
guess so.
So, as I'm sure you're aware, for how long has it been now? How many years have we been marching April every year in the U.S.?
105 years, I guess? Well,
No, we
30
haven't.
years, okay.
No,
In the
okay.
U.S., 30 years.
I guess at
So-
least 30 years.
Yeah, I know at least 30. Since I've been here, I remember I was a kid with the different Armenian organizations we used to march. But looking at that, and then looking at the marches that we've been doing internationally now, all over the globe, as far as the war goes, to raise awareness for what's going on, which is, villages being shelled right in Armenia and whatnot, and the type of killings that you talked about, which is the first time in history where a country is being attacked by drones, literally. So, considering what we've done for 30 years, which pretty much has been ineffective, because, and you can touch on this too, as far as we had this discussion with Petros, how he mentioned that the genocide was recognized in 1920. Instead of us marching to re-recognize it, we need to try to maybe resurface those documents from 100 years ago.
Absolutely.
100%.
That's
so
a great question.
if you can touch on that, and also as far as, are these marches effective, or is there something more effective, more significant we can do? Because yes, it's getting some news coverage, some maybe even negative news coverage, because we don't have, the problem that I'm seeing is we don't have professional politicians who can sit down and interview on CNN and MSNBC and
Look at
We
our
do.
foreign
No, no, no.
minister.
We-
American flags. American flags. We need to have American
Oh,
flags.
I posted that today, and people are still, well, that's not significant enough.
One of my non-Armenian friends honestly thought it was April again. She was like, I thought it was. She's like, isn't it
Yeah.
April 24th? American flag. These people need to know that America is protesting towards, not towards. America is protesting for Armenian
Yes.
recognition of of Artsakh, of Armenia. If they're protesting in France, take your French flags. If you're protesting in England, take your English flag.
Yes.
You
Well,
use
both.
You take
US
both.
and
but there
Armenian.
needs to be American flags. You didn't. I get it. Our flag is beautiful. I get it. It's beautiful.
But
I
nobody
love
knows the purpose of it. though.
Yeah, everybody. I'm telling you.
About that you said about negative publicity. I'm one of those people that believes more in the negative publicity than I do the positive. I mean, look, LAPD said one of the most peaceful 100,000 people that I've ever seen gather up and clean up after themselves, but no one remembers the next day. You break down the
No, I don't believe in that.
stores, you get more coverage. Lakers was champion yesterday. There was 60 people in front of Staples. The companies were covering it live.
Okay, because Lakers is a local sport. You can't compare
But yet
that.
they have
Okay.
they tagged up
So,
everything
but
in there.
let me finish my question, and so Dr. Hayk can get to it. As far what I'm trying to understand is how can we help our people better organize structure? As far as we're just all over the place. You know, you've got these people being interviewed on the street who have no idea what's going on. They're stating quote unquote facts that are so off the charts. It's making us really look stupid, and
I have a pen and pencil.
you know. So if you can help us understand as far as what would be a better approach, as far how we can structure it, organize it, whether it's the Armenian consulate, the ANCA, whatever other organizations we have that really need to start utilizing the media, because we haven't. These marches are not doing the job. It looks great on TV when you edit it, you create a montage. It's you know, you get chills. It's beautiful, but I don't give a fuck about beautiful. We need to win this war, and we need the diaspora to help Armenia win this war.
You know, I want to thank you for these questions, and I'm really, truly amazed by the issues you raised, because in the diaspora, unfortunately, well, I don't consider myself diaspora, unfortunately, or I don't know. Fortunately, I'm a Hayastansi, just like you are.
Are you dual citizen?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. But I am a Hayastansi, so I'm not a Spurka Hay. You raised these issues and questions that very few in diaspora see. We look like unguided missiles, especially in this campaign and marching and stuff. And please remind me of your previous question also about the documents, and I'll talk about that as well.
Sure.
Now, marching by itself, and I don't want to belittle anything, I don't want to insult anybody. It's great. We have this capacity, we have this patriotism. It is towards our ethnicity, towards our cause, and etc. But the issue is that marching for the sake of marching, shouting a lot of random, not structured demands, going and protesting against CNN for the coverage only.
In Armenian, which they don't understand.
Yeah. And in Rockefeller Plaza in New York. And by the way, I have to tell you that unfortunately there have been very stupid parts in some people's speeches in New York where they have said things like, I'm not quoting word for word, but the meaning has been, and you can see it on recordings, that Christian people are being massacred in Artsakh and etc., which is the stupidest and the most damaging thing one can do in these campaigns, because if you put if you accentuate the religious aspect of this, which there is none, basically. Maybe jihadis have a religious aspect. We don't have. And Azerbaijanis fighting us don't have a religious approach to this issue.
Are we sure about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not. They're not fighting because they're not trying to kill us because we're Christians. And even genocide didn't happen because we were Christians. It didn't happen for that reason. It happened because we were the native peoples of the lands, and they needed to get rid of everybody who's not native. They killed even Muslim Arabs. I mean, it's history. It's unconditional. We shouldn't be discussing this. Now, making this religious, we are risking or presenting this religious, which is the work of very illiterate couple of people, not many. I don't want to generalize this. We put ourselves in peril in terms of the Arab states, that sympathize with us, that are deeply Muslim. We antagonize Iranians, who are Shias, of course, but also the Sunni world. Mind it, most of the Sunni world, not counting Pakistan, maybe Bangladesh, who has never spoken out about this, not counting one or two other countries that side with Turkey in this issue, the whole Arab world, in majority, is for Armenians in this war. Now, if you bring the religious aspect in this, you cause the stupidest damage to our cause. And trust me, there is zero religious aspect. First of all, Azerbaijanis were never religious and still are not religious. They have religious extremists themselves, but those are the Sunnis who have been educated in certain places, and they have become basically essentially terrorists. And now they have imported Sunni terrorists. Those terrorists from ISIS, from Jabhat al-Nusra, which is in
It'll
Idlib,
backfire on them later.
which is Al-Qaeda. Yeah, they have the religious aspect, but they also fight for money as well. Now, religious aspect is absent. It's an issue of extermination of Armenians for the land grab purposes, right? Number one. Number two, we need to have an agenda, clear agenda. What do we march for? We march for just for reports on CNN. I mean, in the end, that's not the issue we should be fighting big time, right? We can raise that issue, but that's not ideologically wise in a bigger picture. What we should be raising as a question is for asking the United States to stop providing non-lethal military aid or financial aid to Azerbaijan. We should be asking US as a key NATO member to reconsider its relationship in the framework of NATO with Turkey, because Turkey is not an ally of United States. We should be asking US to put more pressure on Azerbaijan. These are the issues that we should ask. Going and protesting in front of Turkish consulate in LA or Turkish embassy in DC or in other places, or Azerbaijani embassies and consulates, what does it give us?
Nothing. They weren't even there yesterday.
Yeah, what do we reach? Well, people yell in the street, those people are home. What? They're going to be stopping the war? They're going to be seizing the genocidal policies they are conducting? Of course not. We should be directing our efforts, our time, and time is money in America. We waste our time on fruitless things in the same logic that you just said, which is the April 24th. Instead of marching for Artsakh issues, raising those issues for all these years, we have done something that conventionally is very comfortable for us, because we know, recognition of genocide. We have done that for dozens of years, so it's a ritual. Just like you said, people think it's April now, because no other issues have been in the agenda. We have mobilized worldwide, and this is not only an American Armenian problem. This is a problem in every single country where we have diaspora. But the blame for this I put on the Armenian governments, successive governments, because the policy in diaspora should be dictated by Armenia, dictated not in a negative way, but in a positive way. Armenian government should provide the diaspora talking points,
Leadership.
and these things have been absent again because of Levon Ter-Petrosyan's ideology, who was saying Armenia is a country, we should be dealing with Turkey and Azerbaijan as a country, we should be trying to establish good relationships with them, and diaspora should be in charge of doing the recognition issues, doing the other things that we as a country cannot allow ourselves to do.
And we've been doing it since.
Yeah, and we should understand that there is no such thing that Armenia cannot do in terms of Armenian interests and issues from now on. From this point on, we should understand that we should do everything. We should fight for recognition of genocide, but that should be the last issue on the list, because that's not going to change anything anymore. Enough countries have recognized, enough work has been done, and we should think about the reparations and the documents, but now we're very far from reparations. Now, we come to your thing that you said, we don't have many politicians who speak. We have no politicians who are decision makers, let me put it this way, who speak what must be spoken. But we have a lot of people now, and especially amongst the new generation, who know what should be done, who are unhappy with many things, who start to refer to these international documents. Now, they have been neglected by the successive governments starting Ter-Petrosyan's regime. And you know what? Very important question. We have one single person in the whole Armenian world, in Armenia and in diaspora, who is the best and the only comprehensive specialist on the international treaties that have been in favor of Armenia, of the whole Haykakan Khantir, and I don't want to call it Haydat, not to associate it with Dashnaktun or any other party or any other organization, Haykakan Hartsi het kapված, related to the Armenian question. All the documental or document issue, we have, for all of that, we have one single specialist, and he's being completely and totally neglected as a specialist by the decision makers for more than 2,000 years. It's Ambassador Ara Papian, the former spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Armenia, who has been the ambassador of Armenia to Canada, who's an extremely knowledgeable historian and political scientist, one of the most prolific people, and he is the only person who knows all the ins and outs of all of these documents, who has dedicated, who has basically sacrificed his position in the government to work on these documents. And he has always, and I'm underscoring it, always been neglected by decision makers, because the mentality of Ter-Petrosyan has been dominant in Armenia since Ter-Petrosyan was in power. So this is one thing that we should base all our efforts on. There is a generation now that follows these ideas, and I am in the same framework. So we should understand that we have an extremely powerful tool. Again, I want to make one reference to Israel. How does Israel justify the construction of some settlements in territories that are not internationally recognized to be part of Israel? They do excavations. They find
people still living in the house.
They
while the
find
excavations go
they
on.
find an inscription in Hebrew, 2,000-year-old inscription, and the Israeli government claims this as Israeli land because of history. They say, oh, historically this has been Israeli land. This has been part of Judea.
Well, look at all the churches.
And we have everything. We have churches, we have documents, but we purposefully have chosen to totally ignore and belittle this very powerful weapon that we have in our position, which is the international documents, 100-year-old only documents, and the historical, the cultural presence of us there, and absence of the enemy there. And I just said the word enemy. I want to stress it again. We, the Armenians, use the word hakarakort for Turkey and Azerbaijan.
Enemy,
We're
basically.
so wrong.
Oh, that's wrong.
Hakarakort is so politically correct.
That's
You-
like
you-
Lakers Clippers. That's,
Exactly.
That's Hakarakort.
Exactly. You can be hakarakort in chess,
Yeah.
like adversary.
So what would it
They
be
call
then?
us dushman in Turkish,
Meaning?
meaning enemy. And that's what everybody calls, each other is their enemies. We should call them by their own name. It's their enemies. Enemies.
Someone wants
This
to kill
is-
you, they're your enemy, buddy.
This
It's
is
simple as
this
that.
is also related to linguistic mentality, right? We have so many wrong things that we say and speak during these days. So also, this is also one question that I would like to address to your audience. When you talk, don't say hakarakort, say enemy, because it changes also your mindset, how you approach the issue.
That softness is what's killing.
America
No.
calls everybody whom America fights enemy combatants, enemies.
course.
Who says the adversary? America calls Russia adversary because there is no war between Russia and America.
Yeah.
Not yet.
They don't want to rock the boat. But going back to what you were saying as far as with Israel, Israel finds, you said, a manuscript, something that basically says something in
And they
in
claim
Hebrew.
that land, and
They
we
claim it.
ridiculize our historical proof. And you know what? These documents that I quoted, they are in the same framework by which Lebanon was established, Jordan was established, Iraq was established. There was never a state called Iraq. Iraq was the variation of the name of Sumerian, the Sumerian city-state Uruk, that they created after First World War as the country they put that name on. So that's the same framework of documents and treaties according to which First Republic was created with all of those territories. And we go after these ideas of Karabakh independence, Artsakh independence.
So why
and
are we
things like
not
that.
using Arapapian? Is it the fact that he's kind of a mellow, his personality? Is that the reason
No,
our
this-
leadership doesn't use him?
No,
Because as far
no.
as-
It's ideological. He has wide following. He has a
Yeah,
very wide following.
I follow it.
People understand because he also explains step by step, point by point, extremely logically, very clearly, what is what should be done to achieve here, what is the legal basis, the internationally legal basis, what are the ramifications of these treaties, what are the legalities, everything. Why don't we follow as a country, and why isn't it a state policy? Again, because the exit point, the starting point is Martirosyan's ideology that has created and shaped a whole generation of politicians, a legacy that is enduring, that never dies. Because that's the mindset. And many people in Armenia and in diaspora, not being specialists of these things, think again, oh, Artsakh independence is good. Because it sounds nice. Of course, it sounds patriotic. But without going into the depth and the dangers, right? So the same thing. People don't have this knowledge. It's the decision makers who have to change. Now I believe when this war is over and when we are victorious, most hopefully, we should absolutely reconsider our state policy towards whole this national issue. There is no way we can survive without reconsidering the approaches that we have had and that we adopted 30 years ago. We should just totally change the country. That's what I'm saying.
Aren't these documents also available at the Ronald Reagan Library?
Well, I don't know about a particular library. I don't believe so, because Ronald Reagan Library is just presidential library. So presidential libraries are really some things, some institutions that are containing either the presidential documents or some
The
donations
Library of
and
Congress
stuff.
would have that. wouldn't
Library
it?
of Congress has copies of some documents. Yeah, Library of Congress is one of the most important libraries in the world and
Which
the
is
largest.
anti-Armenian in itself.
No, I don't think so. I don't think
You'll be
so.
surprised.
See, Hayk, I mean, you talk about these things like so easily, so lightly, but I mean, I feel like, you know, listening to who was it? You said Ara Papayan, right? Or what was
Papian,
it?
yeah.
Papian. Him going after churches, historic churches, and saying, you know what, this was Armenian land, and I mean, it sounds so easy, but I feel like there's no way Turkey, Azerbaijan, any of them will fold with us coming in and saying, "Oh,
Of
look."
course they will not. But you need to. Of course they will not.
But we need.
We're
see,
not
but see-
delusional
no,
to think they are.
But see, is like for example, if we had a very strong ally, for example, a Russia, a United States, somebody who was backing us up, saying, "Hey, listen, push forward. I'm right behind you." I think that would be a better
Of course.
step forward.
I agree with you.
Rather than us going in and saying, "Hey, it's like David and Goliath."
Look, I was holding your exact ideas maybe 10 years ago. And then in discussions with Ara Papian and with myself and doing some more research and getting deeper into the issue, I came to the conclusion, yes, doing things by force is the only way to achieve real results. But also you need the diplomatic grounds, and because we are at a disadvantage by facing, you see the world newscasts, right? The news bulletins from world news channels, and everybody says Karabakh is internationally recognized Azerbaijani territory controlled by ethnic Armenians, and etc., blah, blah, blah. Now, to fight these things, you need to have a legal basis and show on international legal grounds that you have legal title to these lands, that you have legal claims, internationally
like a deed for
recognizable
property.
claims.
How
Now,
strong
I'll
will
come-
that hold up in international court?
Oh, it's not going to go to court.
Exactly.
Courts are, it's an international mindset and political approach. Because if everybody starts repeating, because of our fault 30 years ago, that this is Azerbaijani recognized territory, and you never disputed it, you accepted that it is Azerbaijani territory, but you claim You need to go self-determination way, not territorial integrity way, not Azerbaijan's but Armenia's. You never claimed it's a matter of Armenia's territorial integrity to protect these lands. You never put forward documents. You never claimed legally and historically, because you ridiculized your own history. You said, oh, historical factors are nothing. That's why I brought you the Israeli example. So if you don't do these things, there is always going to be the public perception and the public opinion against your cause. And then you're going to be facing negotiations, misgroup, pressures, and etc., etc.
So then we basically did it to ourselves. At that point,
Of
during
course.
Levon's time, we turned around and we said, well, due to not historical facts, but, politically, oh, yeah, it is yours. We don't want to have anything to do with it.
But also, I want to stress something else, very, very interesting thing I want to say. Israel, we know very well, Israel annexed part of internationally recognized Syrian Arab Republic, which is called Golan Heights. So UN recognized and still recognizes the Golan Heights, which is a very important water resources hub geographically in internationally recognized Syrian territory. Israel seized it during the war with Syria. And Israel said, you know what, there can be no negotiations. They were negotiating for some time, and then they stopped negotiating at all. They said there can be no negotiations. This is too important for Israel. Well, that's internationally recognized territory of Syria. We don't care. This is Israel now. So there was this pressure and etc., right? There were no documents claiming that, no basis like Armenians have, that those lands belonged to Israel ever, because Israel was created in 1948. So Israel was basing its claims on historical terms only, like 2,000-year-old history. But what happened next? When Israel ceased negotiating, it ceased putting itself under pressure. And I'm not taking parts, neither Syrian nor Israeli. I'm just analyzing in a cold-headed way the situation we see there as something that Armenians can learn a lot from the situation.
Yes.
So when Israel stopped negotiating, they put themselves out of any possible pressure. What happened next? For dozens of years, nothing happened. Israel developed the territories, and we never developed the 7 regions because they were always seen as a pawn for international recognition started by Azerbaijan, right? This bogus idea that they will recognize Artsakh, Artsakh will be safe now, and in return of that, we will return, so-called return. Why return? I don't know. Return to Soviet Azerbaijan? No. It should be called give or hand it over. We should hand over those territories in return to that. Now, we never populated those areas. Israel populated Golan. And lately, a couple of years ago, the Israeli government said, listen, guys, we don't care what you say. Golan is never returning to Syria. We don't care about international treaties, about UN decisions, nothing. This is essential for Israel's existence. So we keep this. We have our water resources and etc. American administrations successive administrations were not endorsing anything that Israel was doing this.
They weren't stopping it either.
No, of course not. They were publicly, they were not endorsing. Maybe morally they were for Israel, but they were never they were very cautious. Suddenly Trump came to power in America, and things changed for Israel towards very favorable. And suddenly, this is a historical thing, an opportunity. And suddenly Trump, based on his personal interests, based on his family interests, or whatever interests there were, I don't want to go. Also, of course, Kushner as well. And I don't want to go into the American politics part now, because that's a different topic. But Trump recognized
Jerusalem.
Not only Jerusalem, but Israel's sovereignty over Golan Heights. Essentially, Trump, as a president of the United States, in a historical context, in a historical period of time, came to the aid of Israelis and solved the problem for them, even internationally, even against all the resolutions and treaties and documents and international law.
The F-16s.
So nobody from now on can really claim or force Israel to negotiate about those territories. That's Israel now. At least America sees it that way. My point is, if we had the ideological correct approach to the issue, we could have been holding it up for longest time until the moment comes and internationally it's being recognized as part of Armenia. So we have committed so many mistakes during all these years. I hope this war gives at least something positive to us in terms of bettering our understanding of the situation that we face. At least that should be a point of reform for our approaches, for our ideology, for our policy. And if we put forward these documents, these issues, and we use people like Arap Apyan and the whole our group, we can.
What's the group? I mean, you said
It's a
our
non-formal
group.
thing. No, it's just people who have the
Just
same
a bunch
ideas.
of Armenian people that
No,
work
well,
together. Or?
no, it's not just a bunch. It's like specialists and also military people. Vahan Badasyan, I hope you know,
I know Vahan.
a very close friend of mine.
Is Vaughn injured? by
He's
any-
critically wounded. Yes, he's
Is he doing better? It was during the war, from what I know, right?
yeah, he got directly targeted by the enemy
Sniper.
drone, directly targeted, and there are questionable issues around that. They people say that they targeted him knowing that he's in the convoy. He was heading for a very special mission. It is believed, and he was targeted. He's critically wounded. I hope he recovers. But Vahan Badasyan, who's a commander, a legendary figure of the First War, he has one of the highest awards of the First War, and now he got
was just
wounded.
running for president,
President,
I think,
yeah.
in Artsakh recently,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, yeah.
I don't know much about Artsakh politics, just
Yeah.
a question.
Yeah, he was running for it. So he also is a part of this movement. I would call it a movement, not even a group.
Has nothing to do with Sasnatsarer
Uh,
or work together, collaboration.
Look, ideologically, there are many points of commonality with Sasnat Zarer, but neither I nor Arap Apyan are members. Arap Apyan is collaborating closer with them. I am just seeing them in the same ideological field. I am not a member of any party, and I don't believe I will be near future. Maybe at some point, who knows what will happen, what party.
Never say never.
Yeah, what party, so I don't want to say that. But ideologically, I see Sasnat Zarer as very much, in many, many points, what comes to Armenian interests, Armenia-oriented, understanding clearly what needs to be done, and etc., etc. But no, the people, Sasnat Zarer are part of this ideology, of the movement, but this movement is way larger, or this group of people is way larger than a party or an organization or a cabal of people. No, this is essentially becoming a movement in Armenia. We started it, I can say,
A year after Nikol
2000
Pashinyan was
no,
elected.
2016, right after the April War. And Arap Apyan, I, and Vahan Badasyan, and Vahan Badasyan was the initiator, came up with this idea to do the Shushi Herchakagi, Declaration of Shushi. So we went to Shushi, we adopted the declaration with a wide range of political leaders and political people, amongst them David Sanasaryan, who got into the government after the revolution. He's on the front lines right now.
Isn't he the one that was like
He's the
in and out
Minister
of the
of Defense,
office?
no?
Yes.
Sanasaryan was never.
Yeah,
minister.
he was under investigation on, in my belief, on bogus charges, but he left. He's on the front lines now.
Well, best of luck to him too.
Yeah, his friend just got wounded fighting next to him. So he was one of the most top-ranking officials post-revolution period. But he's fighting.
Since we're naming people, Jake was asking about Vahe Avitian.
Well, Vahe Avitian is unfortunately well forgotten. Very unfortunately, that's the military doctor who was killed by some people close or under
The restaurant.
Yeah, at Harsnaka restaurant, and unfortunately, people didn't get punished. Yeah, and that's a very sad part of what needed to be done and never was done.
So he was a freedom fighter against the
No.
Soviet Union?
No,
or-
no. He was just a young
Field doctor.
a young military doctor who was celebrating something in a restaurant, and an oligarch's people had a conflict with him and they just killed him there in the restaurant, and they essentially didn't get punished. Anyway, so this we the three started this Shushi Declaration, which was about the refusal to take the approach of the government of the time to negotiate based on Madrid principles of Sir Sargsyan's government, and using the liberated territories as a pawn for the recognition of Artsakh. So we said that we were pretty sure that some treasonous things happened during the April War, and we were pretty sure there was most probably a deal between Sir Sargsyan's government and the enemy to hand over the territories through a war in 2016.
What baffles me is how somebody could do that to his own people, to his own country.
Well, we have had those things in our history. We have had
But
West Sarkis, we have had Petros Getadars, we have lost...
I understand Armun just went like this,
Yeah.
but
No, not only.
I know, but how much money to lose your motherland and your people? Allow them to die. How
Look,
much money?
You have to. I would compare them to, in a sense.
Is there amount?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
No.
There's no amount.
But these
Some people put an amount on
these
it.
people are different, though. It's like asking, why would the Rothschilds? How many people have they killed for power, or whoever else?
You're talking about
what's the difference?
wiping out a culture, a nation, a country
Yes,
off
how-
the planet of the earth.
You don't think they've killed hundreds of thousands of
Your own
millions of
people?
They don't have their own people. That's the problem.
You're telling me? No, we're talking about 2016.
Yes, they don't. If they had their own people, they believed in that. They wouldn't do that. To them, it's not their people. The country was used as their own personal.
Fiefdom.
Yeah, and it was their own bank account.
So meaning,
they did
okay, you
whatever
know what?
the hell they wanted.
As in, screw it. I don't need this country. I don't need this people.
Yes.
Pay me X amount of dollars and do whatever you want with it.
Well, they were put in that place because of who they were, of course. Otherwise, look, the war ended 26 years ago, right? We had 26 years to rebuild the military, to rebuild the country. Why is there so much lack of trust for the Armenian government today from the diaspora?
Because basically they,
Have you invested $1 into Armenia? You've been here most of your life.
as far as in the past or recently.
In the past, I'm not saying donation. I'm
No,
talking
it's
about.
probably more like
Have you gone there and said, I'm going to open up this retail store?
No,
or
of course not.
Right? Why?
Because I've heard a lot of stories.
Okay. So
I've heard stories
same
from
with-
personal people who wanted to open up a hotel, and
It was taken away pretty much.
Shit
I've
hit the
heard of
fan.
stories where people opened up what they were wanting to open up, and as soon as it was profitable, it just didn't belong to them much longer.
I mean, I
But
don't
let's
know,
all
man.
hope that with Nicole in power, all of this could change. I
Hayk,
mean,
what is going on right now as far as businesses, as far as financials in Armenia right now?
I wouldn't like to comment on that, but I can tell you that it's very, very difficult now, even way more difficult than the coronavirus had created the situation. Like this is all-out war. This is, many people in Armenia call it հայրենական պատերազմ. You know what հայրենական պատերազմ was called before this?
What was it?
World War II.
World War II.
And Armenians as a people lost the biggest number of citizens in the World War II after Russia and maybe Ukraine. But we lost about 600,000 people, being the tiniest, the smallest
It's
republic.
crazy.
And
Russia lost
Yeah.
like 30 million.
yeah,
didn't it?
but that's not the issue now. We are calling this now a հայրենական պատերազմ because everybody understands how serious this is. This is not a war that's being fought for some territories or something. This is war for survival and for destruction. They want to destroy us. We want to survive. This is all about it's black and white. And you were speaking about things that I speak easily, and it's like many things are black and white. And believe me, many people claim that
Why isn't it being handled black and white?
because people are not
Politics.
always smart, wise, or specialists, or willing to listen to other people, to specialists, to people who have different opinions. Because many people are just stupid. And we have this myth that if somebody is in somewhere, if somebody achieves something, if somebody makes billions, if somebody runs the country, if somebody is a famous guy or a famous entrepreneur, he's smart. No. Many of these people are extremely stupid. They're just lucky. They just did something right without even thinking about it. So why? I mean, we Armenians have also this tendency of thinking, oh, maybe there is something we don't know. That's the reason for that. It just looks like, you know, the prehistoric people would look at the lightning and think, oh, this is this god that did it, or the other god that was fighting the other god. You know, while it's just a meteorological thing. So
The sun god, the lightning god,
Yeah.
the cloud god,
yeah,
the rain god.
yeah, but the reasons are so simple because we don't know doesn't mean that the reasons are not simple for what's happening. My point is many things are black and white, and many things that have such simple explanations that we refuse to believe in them because we cannot believe that,
It could be that simple.
yeah, it could be that simple.
So I want to tell you guys about something I told my dad. We were having a family discussion about a week ago. I said, Dad, why do I have a feeling like when the war was happening in early 90s, majority of Armenians were leaving Armenia instead of fighting. So if that generation went on to go all the way as they should have, today you wouldn't have a generation of people worried about drones falling on them. When are we going to have that generation that's willing to go all the way and fight? Do you think this is the generation?
I think that it's not a matter of generations, honestly.
Or people
think-
has to give that fight
I think
one way or
I think every single generation that we ever had throughout the history, even those that have lived through completely peaceful times that have been very short, of course, unfortunately, in our history, every single generation has been a fighting generation. We have this ability to destroy ourselves when we are
At peace.
at peace, in a time of peace. You know, all this self-destruction, all this, you know, I mean, I don't want to go into this, especially in this moment.
Yeah.
We know this. Every Armenian knows this. But when war comes, when existential threat comes, and unfortunately we are one of the very few people in the world, maybe one of the two, that for the past 1,000 years faces constant, permanent threat of being wiped out.
Extinction.
Yeah. So we are under existential threat permanently. And whenever time of active war comes and we're under attack, we unify like hell. So this is on a DNA level. This is on a national DNA memory level.
sort of unexplainable level.
Yeah. Unexplainable level, but it's also explainable because it's a survival instinct. So that's why we may not be the best soldiers during the peacetime in the world. Some other armies could have like best equipment, best trained soldiers, and etc. But when the war comes, a simplest guy from the street who never held a weapon in his hands becomes a lion, an unstoppable guy, an unstoppable weapon himself. Nobody can stop him, even the best trained fighters of the enemy. That's an instinct, that's something inexplicable. I hear and see stories of people that I knew of children of my friends who died, who unbelievably did something you could never imagine. This kid, this 18-year-old, kid who was hanging out in the street and doing nothing. He went on and he did something. He sacrificed his life, and you could never expect those things. April War, Robert Abajan. He was a guy who was like he was a simple guy. I don't want to go into the details, but he wasn't going to become a scholar or something,
I
right?
think he was in the dentistry industry.
Yeah.
He wanted to be a dentist.
But he did something that the best trained people with the strongest spirits wouldn't do. Many. It's our national identity. It's part of us. It's in our DNA. We don't know we have this. It comes out during the times of extreme crisis, like the one we are in right now.
We unite.
not only united. We're not
different.
really
It's more than that.
united
It's more than
always, but it's more than that.
No,
It's
as far as you were saying in
Yeah.
crisis,
I don't. What we're trying to say, it's not. It's not. You can't feel it. You can't touch it, but it's there.
and you can't even properly explain it.
Yeah.
Probably.
It's intangible.
This intangible. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
That's why he makes the
Wait.
big bucks.
We actually had a couple of questions about whether or not you think the U.S. will get involved in this, and if so, would the administration make a difference? Whether Trump is reelected or Biden is elected into office, is that going to make a difference for us? Because some people feel that the timing is so off for the U.S. You know, we're a few weeks away from the elections. Maybe that's why Trump's not getting involved as much. Or if Biden was elected, he would be more prone to getting involved if Russia doesn't, or even with Russia. What are your thoughts as far as whether the administration in the U.S. is going to make a difference, and if the U.S. will get involved at all in this conflict?
Gosh, I'm so
We need
impressed with
another
the questions.
We need another 4 hours for this question.
And it's well, I'll try to be
I
brief.
think Hayk, you weren't expecting this when you said.
I wasn't, but I'm happy to do this, and this is a very pleasant conversation, because I have to tell you, it's not always pleasant when you are talking to journalists or reporters or people who are not very well versed or who don't ask very wise questions. But I see that even the audience comes up with great questions that need to be answered, because they're out
The
there.
audience are smarter than we are.
They are out
We're,
there.
we're the numbnuts. They're the wise.
I guess
nuts.
you're working in cooperation. Anyway, yes, that's a very good question. So thank you for the question. I don't know who it asked, but who asked it. But here's the thing. I see you wear a Trump hat.
I lost my Biden hat. That's what.
we had
So did
we had a
Biden.
barbecue on Wednesday.
Yeah, but I have to disappoint you and tell you that Trump is an isolationist, which means that in terms of foreign policy, America is in deep retreat. Especially taking into consideration the Turkish issue. I mean, Trump has always been on very good terms with Turkey, despite certain things that he has said related to Kurds and etc. that has been dictated by the rest of the American establishment in the DC, inside the Beltway. But when you have an isolationist administration, you have a minimized influence in the world, and you try to stay off things, and you mainly work on your own constituency inside your country, which we know it's the Middle America, it's the Midwest, and etc. But that's internal issue. Now, if there is an administration change in Washington, if Biden is in power, Biden is gonna be back, and it's not Biden. Maybe
It's
it's
mainly a Harris administration.
Maybe it's gonna be Harris administration. Who knows? But it's even better for us Armenians, I believe. So they gonna be increasing their involvement everywhere, and they're trying to push American participation and create or recreate some counterbalance to certain world powers where America has retreated. Because isolationist foreign policy, again, means that you are passive in places where you have played before.
So it also means anti-war in a sense.
Democrats have been in wars, have gone to wars, but usually the
But what
democratic
Trump
attitude...
is doing right now is pulling everything out
Yes.
from other wars and focusing that same money to the internal issues, which he promised and ran on that platform. That's what he told the people.
Well, we're talking American politics now. I don't personally think he's redirecting that money towards internal policies. That's a very wide issue. I don't want to touch that. But yes, he's not getting involved in too many conflicts or in any conflicts. But that doesn't mean that his administration is a peace-adoring administration.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. Democrats have gone to war, but Republicans have gone to war more. They're more interested in different wars in different parts of the world, because that's military-industrial complex, that's the oil industry, that's the gas industry, that's the private mercenaries industry. The huge industries are involved. The medical industry, the pharmaceutical industry. So the heavy-duty, old type of industries have always been connected way more to Republicans than to Democrats.
But again,
that's a proven
Hayk,
fact.
these are all assumptions, though.
No,
These
they're
are-
not assumptions.
Of
They're
course-
facts. No, they're not.
How
They're
are
not.
they, I mean, what facts back that up, though? You have the Obama administration who, on countless times, Obama said it in front of multiple people saying, you know what, as president, I will recognize the Armenian genocide. Everybody backed him up. Everybody jumped on his bandwagon and said, you know what, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Turns
He
out,
had the Senate and
That
Congress.
was the American policy, not Obama policy. Everybody has always denied, the notion of recognizing Armenian genocide
took him
openly.
but he said it took him 8 years
Besides
to say.
Reagan, yeah.
It took him 8 years to say there was a genocide that happened in 1915. There was a genocide that happened.
Why are we talking
in
about
8
this?
years.
Like you said,
I don't know,
Reagan
that
already
was a different
said.
issue.
No,
Reagan
no.
said the genocide happened. Why are we asking every damn president to say
no,
this?
it's not about that. Let me get to my point. The Biden administration or the Harris administration, whatever it's going to be, I personally believe it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be them stating certain things and not backing it up. It's
To some extent, yes.
nothing will change.
No, to some
Turkey
extent-
will always be an ally to the United
No,
States.
no, you should no, not always. You don't know that. No, first, you don't know that because Turkey acting erratically, especially towards the United States. Don't forget that they purchased the S-400 systems from Russia, and the United States was enraged. Now they are trying to use it. Nobody knows what kind of weapons. I mean, Turkey is getting closer to Russia. You must understand that in this context, an isolationist administration is not going to counter that. While a non-isolationist administration is going to be either pressing Turkey, putting pressure on Turkey, or just pushing it out.
The only
We
reason
don't know what's going to happen. But
the
the
only
thing
reason
is,
why I say it is because we cannot count on the United States backing us up ever,
100%.
ever. No matter
no,
if
you
it's
can't say never say never first.
Haikchan,
You don't-
you can't. Number one, they are thousands and thousands of miles away overseas. That's number one.
Well,
okay,
America has
No
always
natural
been thousands.
resources.
I know.
Hayk.
So that's
America
that's,
doesn't go anywhere with
okay.
money.
But that's the number one reason why we can't trust America as far as with Armenia. That is.
Yeah.
Another, no matter Democrat, Republican, I don't care what party it is. You could be a Trump supporter, you could be a Biden supporter. You cannot let go of Russia's hand and grab America's hand, because if America lets your hand go, Russia will let Armenia fall.
Look, I'm not talking.
Am I
no,
wrong?
that's yes, you're wrong. Somehow, and in a
So
way,
you
you're wrong.
would you let Russia's hand go if America is backing you up?
The
And-
issue is, do we have Russia's hand?
of
That's
course you
another
do.
issue. No, you
No.
only have your
How?
own hand in this
We're
world. That's it.
fighting. We're in this
Is
war
Russia,
alone.
Is Russia
Yes.
not one of our biggest allies?
It is our biggest
so would
and
you
the
trust
only
Ru-
ally.
But would you trust Russia or would you trust America in a situation
wait,
like this?
Wait, you may call me your biggest ally, but you're in a fist fight in the other room, and I stand by and I look at you and I just deliver you some napkins and some band-aids, and I don't come to your aid directly. It raises an issue whether I really am an ally or not.
And that's
right?
after you've been beat up.
I can still be your friend. I can still be on very good terms with you, but that raises an issue whether I am willing to risk my relationship with the other party you're fighting for your own sake, because you're my closest friend. But that's the issue. Now, it is not about advocating for the closeness to United States or Russia. It's not about making a choice. We're talking geopolitics here. And in geopolitical terms, when you say America is never going to come to Armenia's aid, that's
Not never. What I'm saying
I
is
guess you said so.
no. What I'm saying is what I'm saying is if you trust America, if you do trust America and you let Russia's hand go, and America basically screws you over, Russia's not going to take you back.
Well, it's not that simple. The international relations doesn't work that simply. First of all, you establish some stronger relations, some mutual interests. You establish the boundaries for those interests. And it's not letting go. Nobody says let Russia go and become your enemy. I am against antagonizing Russians, and I am against presenting Russians as Armenia's enemies. I am against that. Russia is a superpower. It has a huge stake in the region. It has a huge stake in Armenia, in Azerbaijan, in Turkey. You cannot ignore that. That's a fact. You got to deal with Russia. You got to be friends with Russia. The issue is, what do you do for Russia to do what they are supposed to do, what they are expected to do, what their duty is, not to sell arms to your enemy and etc., and to come to your direct aid when you really need it. Now, when it comes to America, you cannot say we cannot trust America to do that for Armenia. Of course you can, because you don't know what kind of change in the situation in the region will happen. I'll give you an example, a theoretical example. Maybe at some point Turkey does such a thing towards America that it's thrown out of NATO, that it has huge conflict with America. That may happen. It's very realistic. Maybe
Is it
not
safe to
this
say
year.
NATO is USA?
Most probably, yeah.
Thank you.
Now, if those kind of things happen, what is America going to do? America is going to be looking who to support to, create problems for Turkey or for Azerbaijan, if Azerbaijan is basically becoming part of Turkey.
So do you think the U.S. moving the nuclear plant from Turkey to Greece is significant move or no?
Military plant or nuclear plant, bro?
Military, sorry, not
Military.
That is extremely significant if we're talking about Incir Lake. I am not completely sure that's happening yet, but I think that's a big possibility, because Americans have never forgotten that during the first Iraq war, Turkey refused
to let them use
not only Incir Lake but also the Turkish airspace. Which means that Turkey is being regarded as an unreliable partner for the United States and NATO. But why in this case is not being banished from NATO? The reason is very simple and very cynical. Because the Western, the NATO partners' approach and philosophy is they are bad partner, they are not really a partner, but at least in the framework of NATO, we can manage them or somehow a little bit manage them
or use them.
And if we throw them out, they're going to be completely out of our control and they're going to be with Russia. That's what the NATO approach and mentality is, and this is no question that this is the mentality. They themselves, certain people inside the NATO speak this openly.
Yes.
Now,
Sorry, it is nuclear bombs. I was correct. It's not the military. It is nuclear.
yeah, that's
From
why I
Turkey
said I'm
to
not sure
Greece.
about Incir Lake, but
But so my question, a lot of our audience thinks you're brilliant. Some disagree with you. Something your point of view is on point. So I'd like your perspective on: do you vote for a president based on how it's going to benefit the U.S. or Armenia?
gosh, another great question, a difficult one. Well, I have to tell you this.
Because Trump has been called a nationalist, right? And you kind of
I don't think he's nationalist. To me, sorry, I know you're a
you
Trump
said
supporter.
isolationist. Is that what you used?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean a nationalist
Two
or
different things,
pro-American. If you ask me, and I assure you, I'm not going to go into a discussion with you about Trump. I'm not going to turn this into.
Nor do I want to. But I just
American.
want.
Yeah, if you ask me,
Yeah.
Trump is not a nationalist. Trump is not working for the benefit of the United States. Every single policy that I see is not for the benefit of the United States. It's rather for the personal benefit. But that's my personal
Sure.
opinion. Now, the question was whether.
By the way, I disagree with you on that 1,000,000%.
I know you
But we're
disagree,
not
but-
going to. It's
yeah,
not because
we're
I'm
not-
wearing.
we're not
the-
gonna talk about
It's
that.
not
That's
because
not
I'm
the
wearing a
topic.
Trump hat,
Yeah.
and I could go into it a million ways, but I want
that's
your.
a- that's a
I want
different-
your-
that's a different
I
day.
want your.
That's a different
Sure.
day.
I want your input as far as how do you vote for a president?
As Armenians, that's what you mean, the Armenian community. First of all, it's a logical issue. And that's why I said I don't think he's working for American interests. In this case, I believe the Armenian ethnicity part and the American citizen and the good American part coincide in big way. In my belief, if you ask me and my opinion, I know there are many, many Trumpists out there, Armenian Trumpists, who are like very, very strong Trumpists. And yeah, that's a term.
Trumpers.
Trumpists.
Again,
That's the term I came up with.
Again, we're just to rephrase
Yeah.
your opinion.
My opinion
Uh-huh.
is, so I don't want them to get insulted or offended or
No, of course not.
fire up.
I'm
This
very
is my
sensitive,
opinion.
so be careful.
Opposite.
My opinion is because it coincides, in my personal opinion, and my analysis shows that it coincides. I would suggest that Biden-Harris administration is going to be very much in the same direction. Good for America, good for Armenian issues. I have no doubt about that myself. But of course, I mean, you can't force those things upon people. That's my analysis. That's my point of view.
But you didn't answer my question.
And I truly believe it.
Do you vote based on what's best for U.S. or Armenia?
Armenia.
You ask me personally?
Yes. Because you're smart. You're smarter than the average guy. You know politics better than
All three of us combined.
all of us
basically.
and probably our whole audience
Let
combined.
me tell
I
you
mean,
this. Let me tell you this. I didn't vote in the past elections, presidential elections. I have voted for New York local elections in New York because
Sure.
I'm from New York. Yeah,
Did you
and
vote for Cuomo?
because I am in California. Of
No.
course I did.
well, you're wearing blue. Of course you did.
I wasn't gonna vote for a Republican. And by the way, Cuomo is a pretty good governor. Cuomo is a
Hasn't
pretty
proved
good
it to
governor.
us, my friend.
You know what I do for a living, right?
Yeah.
I could tell you what he did to my senior population in New York, but I'm sure you know what he did.
Well, let's discuss that afterwards.
Yeah.
So
We
how
needed
do
30,000 ventilators. That's what we needed. We needed 30,000 ventilators.
how do you vote? You vote based on what?
Well, I told you I didn't vote for the last election.
Right. Forget about
Forget the last.
Yeah,
Let's
Yeah.
forget 2016.
yeah. Forget about. We're not even asking
Let's
you
skip.
who you're.
Let's skip the American questions. Let's skip the American questions. I told you, as American Armenians, Americans of Armenian descent, of Armenian ethnicity,
Uh-huh.
because I'm gonna be talking about this thing only. It is imperative that we understand that both coincide. The both interests coincide.
So let me ask you this.
And
If-
of course, if you vote in, listen, if you're an American, if you vote as an American, and the policy towards Armenia is not clear, you vote what's good for America. Of course, if you're an American citizen, how else are you supposed to vote?
because the comments you see on Facebook is, I can't believe you're an Armenian, you support Trump. What does that have to do with anything? I don't live in Armenia.
Well,
It does have a lot.
because Trump has
How?
businesses in Azerbaijan. Trump is very much connected to Azerbaijani ruling family.
Okay, so if on
through
November,
Agalarevs.
if after
The
the
silence of last 2 weeks tells me I'm not voting for Trump.
That's
I told
fine.
you the first day, like
That's
last
fine.
week, I said I won't vote for Trump,
You
and
can
I
vote-
won't vote for Biden either.
okay, so you not
You
voting
vote for
is
Harris.
actually
No, I'm gonna vote
By
for
default,
Joe
you're-
Johan Johnson just to make sure
Just
neither
Edgar,
one of
I-
those two steals my vote.
But you're
That's
better
it.
off not voting.
I understand that, but I don't want my vote going to neither one of
okay.
them.
So if
I'll just
November
go third
4th,
party.
whenever he's reelected, let's say,
You're sure he's going to be reelected?
Can't be
I'm
sure.
I mean, I'm not sure. I'm almost sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But let's say
Unless there's something you know that we don't.
let's assume he's reelected, and on November 4th, we find out he's reelected. He calls Erdogan and says, "Get the fuck out of Armenia. You have 24 hours." What are all the Armenians going to do? Oh, now I support Trump because he
Well,
And he's the only president we have
given
that
you-
could do that.
he's the only guy
He
that
could.
I would
He
expect that
could.
from.
Because he's unexpectable.
He
you know?
could.
Are we all of a sudden going red?
Listen, he could. No. He could.
L-
No.
Hypothetically, he
Of
does
course
that.
not.
See, Hayk,
No.
you said you just said it. You said he could, just like Biden
No, but let me finish. I said he could, but he never gave you signs he's going to do that.
and Biden and Harris
But
have.
he didn't promise. See,
yes,
that's the
they
difference.
have. Because Biden has spoken out against the Turkish involvement in this war, and Trump has kept total silence.
Did Biden speak about it when he was in office for 47 years about
No,
it?
Doesn't
Nothing.
matter.
Why
Doesn't
does it-
matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
Look, it
because-
doesn't matter.
No,
It's
What
better.
about, what, okay, what about,
president.
No,
what,
no,
about,
let me
what,
speak.
about, what about the 10 years that he was in office as vice president?
years.
Let me tell you this one.
No, he
let,
said
let-
10.
let me tell you this. One speech, one statement that's been put out is way better than zero statement than nothing. We have that one statement already.
Like we can't live with statements
It's-
anymore.
it's-
Statements
what
are
do you
not
want?
getting
You
us
want
anything.
to
Action.
push Washington?
Action.
You
No,
want
no,
to
no,
push
Hayk,
Washington?
it's election- it's
I would say let's
election
leave
month.
U.S. politics out.
Of course.
But he
Let's
still didn't
focus on
answer
it.
my question.
No, I did answer. As an American, you should go and vote.
no, forget
What's
it.
good for America?
Okay, perfect. Now that's one. The
Yeah.
second question was, if Trump tells Erdogan to go kiss where the sun don't shine on November 4th,
Yeah.
are you going to go out and say, hey, all your Armenian guys, women, families that hated Trump because he was against Armenia or didn't speak about Armenia, now you have to support Trump? Are you going to do that? Or you think anybody that's a Biden supporter is going
I
to do
still
that?
will not support Trump
There you
because I see a way wider picture, and it's not because
So
I mean.
then,
So you answered
then-
my
yeah,
question.
But
the
you know what?
conversation should
But
end
you know
on
what?
that topic
But
right
you-
now. There's
yeah, no, but you know what? A person who speaks that, who says that, he's gonna be good for America as well. The person who doesn't speak that is not going to be good for America. as well.
But Haykcan, you're
And
talking
now,
about election
what if Biden
year.
does that? What if Biden says that to Erdogan? Are you
He
going
had
to be
the
taking
chance,
your head
brother.
off?
No.
That's the problem.
No, I'm
So-
not. Because to me, it's not only about, again, I'm a U.S. citizen. My family lives here. As much as I care about Armenia, and I probably do more for Armenia than most people combined. But that has nothing to do with American politics. American politics is American politics. I have to do what's best for my family here. I can't think about my fourth cousin in Artashat or Abovyan or wherever. Is Trump going to really do what's right, and is he going to get a college degree? No. So ultimately, I make a decision, like you said, what's to the best interest of the U.S. So if Biden does do that, great. I'll applaud him. I'll say I support you. And I'm not a Republican, by the way. I'm a conservative. I don't belong to a party.
Same here.
So, okay. So, but I don't. A lot of Trump supporters will applaud Biden. I don't think Biden supporters will applaud Trump if he does tell Erdogan to
You say if he does, he will not, unfortunately.
He's the only one that has
No, it
even
doesn't
a
matter.
5% chance of having that tone with him. Everybody else is.
But
"I'll
again,
kiss
he has
your
kept
ass to the,"
silence.
you know.
He hasn't even pronounced the word genocide. He has avoided it at all costs, and he
But he
never
promised,
showed.
Hayk.
Listen, of course, but the fact is, he's never been pro-Armenian.
What did he say in 2019 on October last year
What did
Trump.
he
To
say?
Erdogan
to Erdogan?
Why did he say that? You know that
had nothing
You know-
to do
you
with
know-
Armenia.
you
It
know
had
the-
nothing to do with Armenia, but it shows you that he
No,
will
no.
take those steps
no,
forward.
No.
I guess not.
He was being accused by his own admin because we need to know the context, the political context. He was being accused by his own administration
Okay.
for betraying Kurds because he betrayed Kurds. He betrayed Kurds. He let Turks come in and murder them.
I understand.
The
But
American allies.
did he take a
That's
step
why-
though? Did he take a step
No,
forward?
he did. No, he didn't. He didn't. He didn't take a step forward. He just spoke those words and he let it there.
And just like Biden has spoken those words.
Again, it's better to speak the words and not cause damage than to speak words and cause damage, or not to speak words and
But
cause
everything
damage.
Trump says causes damage. He tweets one thing, everybody loses their mind.
Well, that's a different issue. My point is, if somebody is for Armenia, it's the same framework. That means the same person has the intellectual capacity and the policies that are also good for America. They are not directly correlated. There is no direct connection. But that's in the same framework of the personality and of the policy direction, because Armenia is a very friendly country for America. Doesn't matter how close Armenia has been to Russia or any other country, how well the relationship with Iran is. Armenia is an American natural ally, let me put it this way. Armenia is not an ally of America, but it's a natural ally, which means interests coincide on so many points.
Of course. But Turkey is still an ally of America.
Formal ally, and Turkey is not a natural ally of America.
I
That's
think-
why it's crumbling. The relationship is crumbling.
I prefer if that's what it is. I want to be their formal. I'd rather be the formal ally, because the formal ally is getting more done today.
That's
than
a
the,
different question now. That's the policy issue of Armenia now. Okay, I'm not gonna go into this, and I promise you, if you remind me this issue, I'll discuss it later.
Hayk, you're going to be back.
But thank you.
Next time without a mask.
But
though.
Armenia.
Yeah, we want to see your face.
Yeah, we really want to see your face.
The, eye-
doing
the
it.
eyes are amazing.
We had a
The
lot-
green eyes.
We had a lot of comments about your mask. I didn't want to.
Thank you. Bad
Share it
comments,
with
I
you.
guess.
Make
Bad comments,
Yes,
I
very
guess.
bad comments.
A lot of them had to do with double mask, but I mean,
Well, better be safe than sorry.
That's
First,
everyone's choice.
we'll have COVID conversation.
yeah. Well, I have had friends with complications from COVID, so I'm trying to
Yeah.
stay as safe as possible. There's nothing bad. I mean, if I wear a mask, that's maybe aesthetically not very appealing, but at least it saves health or maybe life. Who knows? So yeah.
I
We
mean,
can all do our part.
we can do our
That's-
part.
That's besides.
Well,
I think
yeah.
we should.
So
just
sorry
leave
if that
Ameri-
offends somebody.
No, let's leave
No,
American
it doesn't offend
politics out of
anybody.
this
No,
conversation.
No, the point was, my point was, I just want to finalize that it's not only that America should do some steps to get closer to Armenia. Armenia also should have thought of making the relationship
Yes.
better, of a better quality, of more substantive, outside of the nice words and nice gestures and etc. All of that is protocol.
But see, that
We're
goes back
talking
to
about substance.
which goes back to what I was saying is they don't want to let Russia's hand go.
But why?
Russia's not going to stop you from
See-
taking 10 or 20 of the Congress
Listen,
people and
you-
taking them to Armenia.
No, it's
Russia doesn't
because
stop you.
I personally believe is because Armenia is afraid of tarnishing a relationship with Russia, saying, "Okay, you know what? I'm gonna let go of your hand right now. I'm gonna go to America," and America kicks them to the curb because America is allies with Turkey.
Again, by no means I am anti-Russian, but I want to ask you: doesn't Russia right now tarnish its relationship with Armenia because the whole Armenian public sees that we're fighting alone?
Russia doesn't give a shit about anybody else.
Who
but
caused
anybody
all
but
this?
themselves?
So why would we, under the existential threat, give a damn about who thinks what
Because,
about
like
us?
you said, they're the closest ally to us right
But
now.
closest ally doesn't mean on a paper.
Who else are you gonna
need
trust?
Again,
Because we don't.
Who else
it
are you
turns
gonna
out
trust?
nobody at this point. But you
Only
should work.
ourselves.
That's the
Yeah.
problem, Haykcan. That's
No,
the
but
problem.
you should work on creating trustful allies or turning your closest ally into a trustful ally.
Right now, we're at war with two countries, Azerbaijan and Turkey.
Yes.
No more
It's-
than that.
Right now, it's not the time to sit back and say we should have, we should have, we should have, we should have, we should.
Of
we
course
should.
it is time because after the war there's going to be Armenia and there's going to be future.
Once the war is done and God willing we do win, Hachtumeng, that's when we need to reorganize and be like, okay, who are we going to be kicking to the curb and who are we actually putting on our side as an
You can't
actual
afford to kick anybody to the curb. You're not.
Internally,
The
you may
what else
be
are you
able
going to
to.
do?
Look, if you think Russia's not assisting Armenia right now, I think
You're out of your
Of course,
mind.
I've said it since day one.
I'm not talking about assisting. Again, I underscore this. I said maybe assisting somehow, somewhat, but I mean full-time support, just like Turkey supports Azerbaijan. We don't see that. That's a fact, guys.
No, we don't. We don't see that, of course.
And we had to see this. That's what was expected. That's what is expected and should come from a closest strategic ally.
Stalin, who gave our lands away, was doing it under Russia's name at that time. Soviet Russia.
yeah.
But
Well, Soviet
still, yet
Union,
Russia.
his motives were different, but yeah.
It's I think it's a complete restructure of Armenia's ally system, a complete restructure of hopefully government as well, because like you were saying, it's a soft government.
Look, if you're going to be afraid of Russia not liking the case that you're talking to Ethiopia, for example, trying to become an ally with Ethiopia, which is a major player in African Union. African Union headquarters is in Ethiopia. It's a huge country. We have very, very respected diaspora there. We had contacts, again, through Ara Papian and Tamar
They're going through
Kevorkian
trouble now.
in Ethiopia. They're going through, so it doesn't matter. That's a huge country. That's a continental superpower of African terms. If we are afraid of talking to Emiratis before the war, let me put it this way, or to Saudis, if we think, oh, Russia will get jealous, Russia will not like it, and then we don't have all those helps, and we don't have a full-time, full-force military support immediately, just like Turkey does to Azerbaijan from Russia, we need to reconsider how we interact with the world.
Which goes back to my statement. Armenia is afraid of letting go of Russia's hand. Why?
But
I told you, because they're afraid.
They don't trust anybody.
People are afraid.
because
afraid.
ultimately
You don't let go of Russia's hand. Russia's still not helping you. What do? I'll guarantee you.
But again-
I'll guarantee you after this war, Armenia will continue to hold Russia's hand and say, "Rusnera."
But again, it's
Rusnera."
not about letting go Russia's hand. You can still hold Russia's hand, and nobody's advocating for letting Russia's hand go completely. No,
Hold a few hands is what
it's
he's saying.
hold a few hands first. Have some alternatives. Not depend on one party's, on one side's, mercy. Number one. Number two, establish a dignified relationship with Russia. In that case, Russia will value Armenia as much as it values Azerbaijan.
I hope so.
But that's what Armenians shall do. And I am famous in saying that we shouldn't blame for the problems with Russia Russians. We should blame ourselves. Because if you position yourself in an undignified way for 26 years, nobody's going to respect you. Your closest ally is going to pursue their own narrow interests. They're not going to be bothering, thinking of causing themselves a tiny bit of discomfort for your sake if they don't value you.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
But Azerbaijan has played extremely independently with Russia, has been friends with Russia. Russia has multiple times called Azerbaijan a partner, a strategic partner, not a strategic ally. Armenia has been strategic ally. Azerbaijan has been strategic partner, which is also a very important
Pretty high
thing.
up there.
Yeah, pretty high up, almost close. And because Azerbaijan has flirted and played and gotten closer to Turkey and has behaved very independently, Russia
Money
has
though,
put
money.
huge value on Azerbaijan.
But it's all
Besides-
money, though.
Well, I wouldn't call it that, because in major politics, money plays a lot of role, but big role, geopolitics. But also there are also issues where money cannot play a role, because there are some issues that are bigger than money. Believe me, just like in human relationships. So it's not everything is not decided by money, even in human relationships, right? We know people who may refuse money for some principles for their close
Definitely,
people and etc. Same goes with the countries. It's a very wrong notion that people think that, oh, money decides everything and economics decides everything, or interests decide everything between the countries. Not everything, maybe 95%, but there is still 5% that's some people, some powers look in a perspective of history, of coming history, of generations. They look very far. Some people, like Chinese, are like that. They don't think in money terms only. They think strategically. They think centuries ahead.
How do you feel about China putting in 15 billion into Armenia?
18 billion, isn't it?
15.
Well, China has a huge potential of becoming Armenia's friend,
Top ally.
close friend.
You don't think that's going to backfire?
I mean, I don't think we should put, grades on different countries, top ally, non-top ally.
No.
Armenia has no other choice than to get more allies.
more.
That's the issue, and good allies. China is an adversary of U.S. China has some competition with Russia as well, so we should be threading a very careful needle.
I feel
not
like we're at the
to-
bottom of the totem pole right now. Literally,
Seriously.
Armenia is at the bottom of the totem pole. We have no allies. We have no friends. We're fighting a war with two superpowers right now.
But guess what? There is a good news also in this.
God,
Our
We're not
spirit-
losing it.
I
We
hope-
are not
Yes.
losing it.
Our spirit is winning this.
I know.
I wouldn't
know.
be surprised if Russia comes in and claims the victory as I helped you win the war.
And then what do we got to do? We got to hold Russia's
Now you
hand
gotta
again.
bend
Do we have
over
more-
again.
Do we have more questions?
Well, Ara made an interesting comment, which I didn't know. He said Harris's husband works for DLA Piper, lobbying group for Azeris. Were you aware of that?
I am not really aware of that, but that's not a big major issue. That's not gonna play.
No, not at all. Ivanka Trump having a perfume line in Azer.
No, it's not perfume line.
Trump's hotel.
Trump has a tower there,
2 towers.
and Trump has had huge dealings with Agalarov family, who are. I mean, Emin Agalarov, who's a Russian singer, but he's Azerbaijani, is the son of the billionaire from Azerbaijan. He was married to Aliyev's daughter. They divorced, but they're still on very good terms with presidential
when were those
family.
towers built by Trump in Turkey?
He didn't build them. They were licensing deals.
The Trump Towers in Istanbul.
So if we go and look around about the connections, well, he's a lobbyist for them. If Armenians pay more money, because lobbying is all about money, he's going to be lobbying for Armenia.
Have you seen what our lobby does? All one-sided. When you're lobbying for a foreign country, shouldn't you have interest in both leading parties in that country?
That's the wise way to act.
Why are we not? It's only democratic focused lobbying by
There
us.
comes the question: are we wise enough?
Anything
That's why
else?
we should
Is
reconsider.
there anything else we want to touch base on?
I hope you come back here, Hayk.
No. He's coming
Amazing.
back. Hayek's got to come back.
When you say hope,
Oh, the guy might flight Armenian next month. How do you know?
No.
Right? I mean, we've had a conversation.
That's possible.
Are you,
very
are you,
probable.
I know you said you were in New York. Are you local? Do you have a residence
I'm in California
LA
now.
right now.
permanently?
For
nothing
At this point,
permanent.
yeah.
Okay. He's gonna keep coming back after
he's
November
not
3rd.
going back to New York until
There's
Cole
there-
becomes president.
There's a lot.
After November 3rd,
There's
we
a
will
lot
need
of
to
people
have
that are
That
going to be
wouldn't be
coming.
bad. That wouldn't be bad.
Well,
by
here's the
the
thing.
way.
There's a lot of people that are going to be
Veronica
coming
agrees
back
with
to the. There's a lot of people that are going to be coming back to the podcast after November 3rd. So we would definitely love to have you back
After the war.
Yes.
after the war, 100%, because there's a lot of things that once this is off that we're going to be talking about, obviously, and then after the war is over, we want you to come back and confirm a lot of those things that we talk about as well. And God willing, Armenia and Artsakh will be victorious by then.
Sorry, Howard had a question he's asked
Go ahead.
several times. Wanted me to ask you about the sanctions on Turkey when Pastor was in prison. I'm not sure what he's referring to.
Well,
Yeah,
there
he's
was a
talking about-
pastor, an American pastor, who was imprisoned in Turkey. There
okay.
were no sanctions. There was some diplomatic pressure.
Trump put some pressure on him and
Some,
get him
of
out.
course, because that's such a good playing card, you know, showing that, oh, I saved
Who
the
knows?
Americans.
He might have even paid them some money or something. Who knows? That's Trump. But he got it done. Hayk, we can agree that he gets things done. And whatever he promised, see, the United
Good
States.
things.
Is,
Always-
let's
always
not go
good
back
things.
to
Let's not go
American
back.
politics.
Okay.
Can we not go back to
Yeah.
American
let's not,
politics?
let's
Yeah.
not do this. Let's not.
Hayk-chan, thank you so much for taking time out of your Monday.
Thank you for having
And
me,
being
guys.
so
Yeah.
patient.
Thank you
We
for-
apologize.
seriously.
Yeah.
I
No,
was-
it's-
We had
I
technical
was-
difficulties, and it wasn't supposed to go the way it went, but I felt so embarrassed, and I'm
No,
sure all
absolutely
three of
not.
us felt
No.
embarrassed and bad that we were like, my God, we have our second segment guest here sitting. We're trying to figure out our first one. I mean, Andy, you could have joined us and
in a mask.
double masked.
Double mask.
Double mask. Hayk-chan, thank you so much for taking time out of your Monday to join us. We really,
Thank you
really
for
do
having me.
appreciate it. We're definitely going to have you back after the war, after November 3rd.
Hopefully it's soon.
Hopefully it's soon. Hopefully it's before November 3rd. Shit.
After the victory, let me put it this way.
Victory. There
God-
you go. Love that idea.
God willing. Araç Astvats. Guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being patient with us as well.
Yes.
Follow us everywhere, guys. Instagram, YouTube. This video is going to be basically put up on YouTube. I might cut out the first section of it, though. The first 15
20
minutes,
minutes of
15
technical.
of technical difficulties. But thanks for being patient with us. Share this. Like it. Continue to comment. It's going to be, it's live on, it's going to be on our Facebook page for
Forever.
as long as we don't get censored. So have a blessed week. Have a great weekend as well. We'll see you guys next Monday with another special guest.
Anything you want to
Anything you want to add, Hayk?
No, I just want to thank you for very interesting questions. I want to thank the audience, and I want to tell you that I'm pretty surprised that this went this well.
We're
I
not
knew-
as dumb as we look.
We're gonna give you 2 shirts today.
No, it is
We're
that
gonna give you 2 shirts today.
it's just in the diaspora we not always see or understand the depth of the realities of Armenia. We only scratch the surface very often, not always, of course. So it is, of course, we have very smart and wise people in
The
the
lions
diaspora.
have awoken.
Yeah, but the general attitude is, of course, it's also because of objective reasons. People are busy. It's an American life or French life or Italian life. People don't have much time
Yeah.
to go deeper. And when you see people who have deep understanding of what's happening, it's always kind of surprising, but pleasantly surprising. And I appreciate that a lot. And this was one such occasion. So thank you for having me, and thank you for this opportunity to discuss these things at length in English, because I guess this is a field that we should work more for in giving more information to our English-speaking audiences.
To the diaspora.
So thank you. Thank you.
Thank
very
you,
much.
everybody.
Thank you all for the intelligent questions as well. Don't forget,
Well, we could
donate. And guys, hold your composure with some of this media stuff that's going on as well. I know there was an incident with some of these CBS employees making some very, very racial comments towards the Armenians. Let's not show up at their private homes. Let's not do anything stupid we're going to regret. Be smart about it.
Carry American flags.
Yes, and please, when you're driving out there protesting, carry an Armenian flag and an American flag so that people know that. And if you're in France, carry French and an Armenian flag. Australia, do Australians have a flag?
Of course they do. Jesus Christ, bro. I was going to be like, did you have like a brain fart for a second?
I'm kidding, bro. You gotta,
I know. Lighten up the situation a little bit.
Thank you, everybody, for
Yes.
joining us
We'll
tonight.
see you guys next Monday with another special guest. Have a great week,
Peace
guys.
out.
Ու թևածում են նորից ենք դա